Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight Entertainment, the podcast that brings you all of the latest coming out of the world of movies and more. Well, particularly this installment is kind of a bit delayed, as it usually is. Today, I am gathered alongside Kyle Lira, of course, the creator of this podcast, and Peter Martinez, who just shows up every now and then these days. And we're going to talk about what our favorite movies were of the year 2022. Of course, normally these kind of shows are at the end of the year of which the list is, dedicated to, but it takes us all a minute here and there to really see, well, we should say most of the things that we want to see. We can't all obviously get to it, but we do our very best, and I think we're gonna have a pretty good selection of films this year overall. The way that it works here is, as far as we've been doing it in the last year or so, we will give off what our honorable mentions were first, the films that barely didn't make the cut, and then
may I address something first?
You could have waited until I was finished, but okay.
I want to give a resounding
fuck you
to Hollywood in general for this asinine notion that, we're gonna just save all of the Oscar movies, or like the ones that we considered artsy, towards the end of the year, so that way, because honestly, I would have been in a lot better shape had things been distributed evenly throughout the whole entire year. But no, as per usual, they decided to drop everything in like November or December, in like the busiest months for me. And honestly, I like to say a resounding fuck you to the film industry for releasing it so that way it's fresh in the mind of Oscar goers. And I think that's fucking awful. I think that it would be a lot more beneficial if you release it throughout the whole entire year instead of just waiting to see who has the biggest dick, because honestly, I'm getting fucking pissed off of trying to play a catch-up game with movies that are released towards the end of the year.
I feel like you really did voice all of our frustrations as well, particularly in November when they released like 10 fucking movies seemingly at the same time. And it's like, hey, if it's hard for people like us who are very glued into this world and are very interested in most things that come out, it's going to be next to impossible for people who, quite frankly, wouldn't even care as much. And it wouldn't even exist on their terms. That's a very good point to make out. And, I think that strategy should be altered, considering that the movie that won the most awards this year wasn't even released in those months. It was released over a year ago, exactly. Right?
If a movie is good, it should stick with you throughout the whole entire year,
right? Instead of just like recency bias.
But alas, it's just not. It's just not. And instead, they're left with their dicks hanging out, just like, we're just gonna wait until November, so that way, these movies, they're not for the common folk. We're gonna just let the Oscar, voters see these movies, and not even give it a chance for the regular audiences. Fuck you.
Yeah, so clearly and I'm sure some of us who are listening at home, like Alexis, would probably concur with that most, because it is very hard to catch up. It's very hard to, you feel like you're always playing a game of catch up and like you're in a no-win situation for sure. Peter, I think, didn't see most of the films until like January, even March, when he had like a few minutes of downtime for sure. Was there anything else you wanted to say on that, Kyle?
I am a grown-ass adult with a lot of responsibilities, and it would just be nice if things were spread out evenly. That's all. Because there are a lot of movies that I wanted to watch that I just couldn't get to.
It's also funny that Andor was released in that exact same moment when all those movies out, so there was a bunch of content that was released at the same time, for sure. So again, just to reiterate what I was saying here, the way that we're going to do our top 10 movies list is we will all go around. We'll say what our number 10 film was, and then we'll move on to number 9, 8, and, so on and so forth. That's going to be our show today on Red Spotlight number 441. Peter and Kyle, as we like to dedicate a little bit of time before we get into the good stuff, can you recall some surefire disappointing experiences as far as movies last year are concerned? Were there films that you were looking forward to and then ended up being not worth the time? Yeah, of course, lackluster. Or were there films that you just outright despised or hated or loathed?
Well, Jurassic World Dominion comes to mind.
That's a pretty easy one.
In terms of loathing,
guess what? We saw that in 3D.
You poor fools.
Hey, that was Peter's choice.
Let me see what else. Oh, I despise everything that Blonde stands for.
People really hated that film.
Good.
Academy Award nominated.
Disgusting.
Blonde. Let's not forget the Robert Zemeckis Pinocchio movie.
I did not watch that. Because I got my version of Pinocchio that I wanted to watch. So I ain't got no strings on that, as it were.
I think one film that was especially bad was Enchanted. No, not Enchanted. Disenchanted.
Disenchanted. I didn't finish that.
And I think doesn't that speak for itself?
It just speaks, yeah.
The Secrets of Dumbledore.
Again, didn't watch that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, because you didn't miss anything.
Because here's the thing, like, any given Sunday, I would have been like, oh, sure, it's Harry Potter. Why the fuck not? And all that stuff. But I vehemently detest anything that J.K. Rowling is touching. I do not.
Which is everything Harry Potter these days.
Yeah, which it sickens me to my core. Because, like, I'm so deeply attached to Harry Potter, and it sucks that now there's that stink lingering around something that I loved and cherished.
Well, either way, it was fairly incoherent and incompetent, so you didn't really need to see it.
Good.
Another especially bad movie, I would say, considering how empty and vapid and hollow and corporate it felt like. I consider this to be Pixar's worst film ever, Lightyear.
Lightyear, yeah. Although I wouldn't consider it the worst. I was entertained watching it.
You're wrong.
I was entertained in moments, I'll say that.
What else is fucking new, Peter?
I feel like it didn't have anything to offer besides just being the mascot for everything wrong these days with, Disney's direction. I mean, again, you can make the argument that there are some lower lows in films like Cars 2, sure. But I don't know. Overall, this film doesn't even exist to me. At least Cars 2, I can recall how bad it is. Lightyear doesn't even come to mind. And if you're forgettable, that's pretty bad. Black Adam was especially horrid.
Didn't watch it.
Peter, you saw Black Adam, right? Well, you said you tried watching it.
I skimmed it.
It was terrible. Probably the worst use of painted black I've ever seen.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also, what was bad, David O. Russell's latest film, Amsterdam.
A movie that I wanted to like, but I wound up not liking. Babylon.
Really? Babylon is on your list for most disappointing films of the year. That is interesting. Okay.
Because I really wanted to love that movie.
What happened?
I'm done. This is...
No, hey, we're
nice.
only just getting started, Peter. We're only just getting started. Kyle, please elaborate on why you were so disappointed.
Your movies, okay? Let's talk about how shit that Spielberg film is.
You will have your time in the sun, I guarantee you. Don't worry. I will give you all the time in the world for that. Kyle, please go ahead.
It looked fantastic. It looked like a lot of promising aspects of it, like diving into, I guess, the pseudo corruption that is the early 20s in Hollywood.
Let's leave it there.
All that stuff.
That's good. I agree.
No,
Let's
keep
leave it
going.
there.
Keep going. Keep going.
But it fails on all cylinders. It's like it took on too many ideas and didn't know what to do with it and how to execute it with perfect tone, pitch, and all that stuff. If you want a perfect example of how the 20s is very hollow and very fucked up, I would point out to Baz Luhrmann's The Great Gatsby, because I think that better displays it, and I think that's the best version of Gatsby in general. So
Great Gatsby. I barely knew her Gatsby.
Anyway, I just think that it just fired on all cylinders for me in terms of tonally, and I think that it was just it was just a mess all around. And at the end of it, oh my god, I was so close on vomiting from how down your throat that whole last what's it called? I guess montage. It's like
Someone is not a fan of cinema.
And then like, here's the thing.
Not a true cinema lover.
Here's the thing, Damien Chazelle. Like, if you really wanted us to feel like, isn't movies great? You should have spent the 3 hours you had with us telling us that.
I want to say that I was there for Kyle's experience of Babylon, and it did find it was a bit contagious because, it did grow tiresome by the end of it, and I noticed that you were kind of turned off for a lot of the movies, so I definitely felt that for sure. Are there any nice things you can say about the movie? If you want to, not that I'm making you.
The scene when they're first doing their first talkie, I think was a good scene.
Mm. Did you like Justin Hurwitz's score, or did you find it to be obnoxious?
I actually liked it.
Okay, good. But
You
it's just
see
that
how
whole,
you're providing
that
leading
whole
questions?
ending just didn't work for you. Okay. I was going to say with Amsterdam, that to me, I think was one of the most painful experiences when I was awake, because it was consistently putting me to sleep all the way throughout the movie. It was one of the most bafflingly incoherent movies I think I've ever seen, where things just happen and there's like no sense as to why it happened. And then it's even accompanied with some of the worst written dialogue you've ever heard. And I say worst in the context of like it only made things more confusing and more incoherent into the scenes that were actually going on. Perhaps David O. Russell should just stay away from movies, because this was pretty embarrassing.
You should stay away from women.
Roland Emmerich had probably the worst movie he's ever made, and that's saying something, with Moonfall last year. That was one of the most brain-dead movies I've ever seen. Like, just... why was any of this even a thing? So Moonfall is definitely up there as far as disappointing is concerned. I want to say, I can't ignore the overwhelmingly angry reaction, and you guys are there to experience it, but definitely one of the disappointments, even though I wasn't expecting much of it all, was Doctor Strange. Because I like the film from a visual standpoint. I like the score, but I don't care about anything happening in the movie.
My list will disagree.
And that's perfectly fine. We're all gonna disagree.
I'm just kidding. I see what you mean. There's a lot of potential that you could have done with Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. But that being said, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. No. I'm just like somewhere. I'm just lukewarm about it.
Right. That's fine. Also in this area of not hating it, but more so hating the response that it's received, I didn't find there to be anything special or remarkable about All Quiet on the Western Front. It was just your standard war movie, and it was good. It was fine. It was just the same thing.
Blah, blah, blah.
Transformers.
Yeah,
I love. This is just like the 5-year-old in me. I love in the Transformers. Whoa. Yeah, this is the most. Now, why do you got to do that? Why do you got to do that, Peter? Why? I hope you're happy with yourself.
Happy holidays.
Anyway, so I love it. I mean, it's memed upon, but I love in the trailer. You know what? Never mind. God dang, you just ruined all the momentum. Thank you, Peter.
I was also disappointed in Bullet Train. I didn't find that movie to be fun at all. Sorry. Not sorry.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So now that's through, let's go ahead and start off with some honorable mentions. Peter, since you've been quiet, would you like to start with some honorable mentions? Well, you know what? Hold on. Let me just ask for clarification.
Before we begin, you hear that? I cracked open.
God. I wasn't looking. I thought that was a gun.
Oh, no. I cracked open a cold one with the boys.
Oh, my gosh. That better not be Bud Light.
I need to ask to clarify something. How many movies do you plan on mentioning in your honorable mentions?
120.
Okay.
Why do you think I got, Alexis, why do you think I got the booze ready?
Okay, no. I'll go ahead and start off then. As far as films this year that I would say were notable enough that I would put on an honorable mentions list, I'm going to start off with, let's see here, After Sun. I thought After Sun was a great directorial debut by Charlotte Wells, and it was particularly vague up until it was very clear, and then it was very devastating. Paul Mescal is great. Bardo, also by Alejandro González Iñárritu, was very, very good as well. Very interesting choices, a lot of risks for sure. I can definitely understand why people were like very put off and turned off by the movie with its choices, but it always had my interest, and I think the cinematography and the production design are top notch. Also, I want to shout out The Woman King. Viola Davis is honestly one of those actors that's great in everything and anything. And as far as the physicality is concerned, she was magnificent, as well as Lashana Lynch and the entire ensemble cast here. Very good action film as well. And I think when I saw it initially, it reminded me a lot of, the Gladiators and Bravehearts of, days past for sure. I also want to shout out Thor: Love and Thunder. This is the film that everyone loves to kick in the dick and crap on and like use as the poster boy for like when the MCU went wrong. And I'm like, there are easy things to kick this film in the face about. The visuals, the volume, the way that it was just made up on the spot with some choices for sure. I think we've all agreed on the lack of Natalie Portman and Christian Bale as some, real easy things to complain about. But overall, it was an MCU film that actually had the audacity to care about characters and growth and themes and arcs. And while not anything especially profound, it was able to accomplish all those things while having humor that was actually humorous, which I don't know what's up with people. They just need somebody to blame, but it's on my list of honorable mentions for sure. Also, Decision to Leave by Park Chan-wook. It is perhaps the most romantic movie of the year. Maybe not the kind of romance that you're thinking it is, especially given the subject matter that it entails.
Oh, it's a gay romance.
No. I mean, sure, if you want to call it that, but it's... Dang. In its literal terms, it's not that at all. but it's also kind of like a noir film. It's a detective not murder mystery. It's a murder detective story, but also with romance in there. And I thought the editing was one of the stars as far as the film is concerned. I also want to shout out RRR. That is one of the more unique movies I've ever seen. It had everything, literally. It had music, it had action, it had romance, and some great effects as well. There's really nothing I think that comes close to touching this movie as far as uniqueness is concerned. I'll also put out the animated short film The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, currently streaming on Apple Plus TV, or Apple TV Plus, I should say. Some people found this insufferable. I don't understand it. I thought it was, really charming. Had a beautiful message for sure. Also, the directorial debut by Michael Giacchino, Werewolf by Night. So good. And it really rekindled my love for horror in a way, in that kind of horror. And it made me really want to dive into classic horror films for the first time, which I was able to do so thanks to Peter Martinez. So thank you very much for that. Another one that I'm sure some people would find, I guess, a controversial pick, and some would even laugh at it, saying, "Is that really a movie?" But
I was about to say,
if you
starting to stretch the definition again.
If you watch the movie, you'd understand. Disney Channel's theme, "A History Mystery,"
the YouTube
by
video?
Kevin Perjurer, is a film. No questions asked. It is that,
video.
And if you've seen it, you wouldn't be asking questions about it. But I definitely found it to be one of the more interesting movies, and it led us down a rabbit hole that is Real Answer kind of wrapped around itself with the struggle that is artistry and in the insecurities that are, involved in that, and really about the beauty in the small things that artists participate that may not, they may not think when they're making them would be part of their legacy, but turns out actually is. I think it's an especially beautiful story for anybody that calls themselves an artist or anybody that works in the industry and what they were able to contribute through their means. So definitely one of my favorites this year. Good luck to you, Leo Grand. This was a movie that I was telling everybody for the whole year to watch, and nobody ever did. So thanks, guys. This is Emma Thompson and Daryl McCormack, and the whole film can come off a bit stagey, as is mostly takes place in a hotel room. But the conversations had in this movie, I thought, were fairly eloquent. And if they were communicated across everybody, I think people would be healthier. And if people were willing to have these kind of conversations about what makes them happy and feel less guilt and less shame, we'd be all better for it. And so I found this to be really interesting. And I think one of Emma Thompson's better performances. And if we're being honest with ourselves, she was definitely overlooked and robbed as far as the consideration is concerned. Next is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. DreamWorks came out of nowhere with this instant classic movie. I've seen it several times at this point. The animation style, this movie literally would not exist if it wasn't for Into the Spider-Verse and what it was able to pull off. And the updated animation, the camera movements, as well as the actual great story that was involved. I don't think Puss in Boots has ever been better as far as a character is concerned. And considering how well it's performed, I think it's an instant classic for sure, one of my favorites. Next was another overlooked film that no one else saw, quite literally, not just the people in this room. But this one was from Billy Eichner, and this was Bros. This was the gay rom-com movie that no one wanted to go see. This was actually one of the funniest movies of the year. And this got really swallowed in controversy for rather petty reasons, but this was actually one of the ones that was worthwhile going to go see. Next, I had Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. Like, what the fuck is that movie? I know.
You're just making up titles now.
No, like, seriously, like, I was with you. I'm like, what is this movie? No, it's this lady in the 50s who's just warm and charming, and she is able to kind of like enter people's lives and brighten it up.
Fuck that.
It's actually a quite irresistibly charming movie that if you watch and you end up like, well, that did nothing for me, you're probably Peter Martinez. So next I will say Tar. Cate Blanchett is an amazing actress, and with this movie she is especially magnificent. This film is one of the most deeply layered movies I've ever seen, and it takes really more than one viewing to appreciate all of the stuff that's hidden, honestly, in plain sight. And then the last movie for honorable mention will be Smile. This was the feature debut by Parker Finn. I'll say this, I'm never going to forget that theatrical experience when I had Alexis basically like crying, well, not crying, but just like screaming every other second. And it was especially scary, at least for me. So those are my honorable mentions. Kyle, I guess you're next.
Okay, so I only have 6 on a list. I think 2 would probably piss some people off here, but anyway, here we go. Okay, so number 16, this isn't the best movie in the world, but god damn it, I had a lot of fun watching it. Studio 666. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Have you heard of it, Alexis? Peter, have you heard of it?
I have.
Okay, so Studio 666 is, okay, think about it this way. It's the Foo Fighters in a horror movie. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So the premises, for those that don't know, is that they're trying to make another album, and they find this awesome house with some good old vibes. They can't explain what, but it sounds incredible. But it turns out it's fucking possessed by by a demon and shit. And the demon possesses Dave Grohl, and lo and behold, we follow the band, and they're freaking the fuck out to Dave Grohl's antics. It's a fun watch. It's just watching this band who are quite hilarious, and it's fun to just watch them goof off. And it just so happens that a video camera is following them. It's really interesting. There's some great kills, some great. Does
anyone in the Foo Fighters eat it?
Yes. Almost nobody comes out of it alive. It's great. And so it's great. The soundtrack is great. The acting is great. It starts off with Jeff Carlin basically saying, "You guys are fucking up. Get to work and do all that shit." It's fun. It's a lot of fun to watch. The next one was already mentioned by Alexis Soto. But I think Disney Channel's theme, History Mystery, is another.
Good lord.
Is another one of those things.
Just more evidence that you're wrong, Peter. Accept it and move on with your life.
I've never seen a YouTube video capture and invigorate things. Yeah, so I think that it's just one of those things that it's so visceral in what they was trying to say, and just like that basic stupid concept, like just take the notes that you hear in the Disney Channel theme song, the dun 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 dun, and the fact that a story and a significant story is made out of just
it's a great story
out of those 4 notes and digging to find. Honestly, it's a shame on big corporations for hiding the authorship of artists' work. And I think that that's where I come from with this. It's amazing how many hoops Kevin Perger had to do to find out the source. And
it has to be seen to be believed how great it is.
It's incredible. I mean, I think if anything, we're underselling it, because it sounds it sounds stupid on paper, a YouTube documentary, for sure. But I think that, it extends a little bit more than that. And I think Kevin Perger just shows that, that something artistic can come out of anywhere, or something creatively visual can come out of anywhere.
Anyone can cook.
Anyone can cook, yes. And it sells the point of that. My number 14 is this movie will do the quite opposite of what the title gives you, and that is Smile.
Oh yeah,
Smile. I find,
oh my God.
The thing is that I'm gonna be honest here, and I don't want to be like those I'm not like the other people kind of thing, but I don't.
Oh, call Alexis out like that.
I don't typically get scared watching horror movies. I don't. But just this whole idea of like just visual trauma just manifesting itself within and see a cycle throughout different people, and just like it's kind of like what the good old 12th Doctor said, cruelty begat cruelty kind of thing. And it just shows that, and the repercussions of cruelty begat cruelty. And I love it for that. I think what's her name?
Stacey Bacon.
Yes, she was outstanding at this. My God, honestly, if a curse ever was like to show the ability to gaslight, boy, does she sell it. Because, my God, I just felt bad for her throughout the whole entire thing, because you're seeing all this shit happen, and you're just like, oh my God, somebody please believe her. Fortunately, somebody believed her. But also, little spoilers, it bit him in the ass too because of it, and it sucks, but it's fantastic. No happy ending. Once again, quite contrary to the title itself, Smile. But I thought Smiler was pretty fucking fantastic.
Dude, it's in moments even kind of relentless too, because it just keeps throwing things at you. And Alexis and I both agreed that in moments we were kind of exhausted and we're like praying for an intervention, because it was like, okay, give us a break here. This is too much.
I was praying for misery to end, because good Lord, like. Anyway, so Smile. I think Smile was a terrific thing. Number 13.
Number 13.
I thought the exact same thing. Were you trying to do a Jeremy Johns thing? Because it sounded like it. I mean, Kyle,
yeah.
not Peter.
No, I mean the number should be number 15, Burger King foot lettuce. For those who get it, you get it.
I don't, but
Peter, do you get it?
I will say yes.
Okay, you don't get it. Thank you. But anyway, number 13, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Yeah.
I was very, very much surprised. This movie would be a lot fucking higher had not been for John Mulaney's character. Because I adore everything that's happening around John Mulaney. But I don't like John Mulaney's character. I think it's just a distraction, because it just doesn't tie in with anything thematically that I think you could have easily trimmed that. But I think that this is outstanding. The voice acting from Antonio Banderas is amazing. Just Harvey, I say his name wrong all the time. He plays Guillermo on What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yeah.
He is fantastic in this as well. Also, and this hits a little close to home, but I know what it's like to have a panic attack, and I have had multiple before. And the scene that is proudly displayed in this movie about panic attacks, I think it's just one of those genuine scenes that tackle this really delicately and very sincerely that I just found very very profound in watching. Also, holy shit, Death is fucking awesome. Probably in the top 3, if not the best DreamWorks villain that has ever come out of that studio.
Let alone animated films lately.
Yes.
As far as villains are concerned.
I love the voice actor who played him, and it's just iconic lines like compliments to your cobbler. I think it's just it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Number 12. This is gonna make possibly Alexis Soto very upset.
You do what you want. I'm looking up the voice for
Death.
Yeah.
He's Death, straight up. The Fablemans.
I'm disgusted it's even on the honorables.
If you think that disgusts you, just wait.
Okay.
Well,
just wait. Continue,
we have the
Kyle.
one rule, Alexis, which Kyle agreed to and you did as well. It cannot be on your number 1. But okay, go ahead.
But anyway, yeah, okay. So The Fablemans, I think it's another great Spielberg romp. I'm pretty sure we'll discuss this later on, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. Number 11. This was really hard.
That's what she said.
My number 11, and my number 10. I've been going back and forth so much, switching it throughout these past months that I'm just like, this one, and it was really difficult to place this one. But I was just thinking about what left a better impact upon after watching the movie. And so I'm gonna say my number 11 is Avatar: The Way of Water.
Okay, now I'm offended.
I mean, hey, shut up. You've been offended at everything that happens. Come on.
That attack was wholly unnecessary. Whoa.
Avatar: The Way of Water. Yeah. I love the movie. I love the movie. It is a fantastic fucking movie. But I just think that 10 stuck with me a little bit better in what it had going on. That's all. I think that Avatar: The Way of Water is a visual magnum opus. It is a terrific sight to behold. Improved upon all that came before. But alas, number 10 I found a little bit better than that.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have some very different lists. If that honorable mention was any indication, I also want to say, Kyle, I'm still low key mad at you that of all the moments in our IMAX screening, you chose the water sequence to get up and go pee.
Oh my god, you fucking you stupid piece of shit.
I had to pee, okay?
Right when they jumped in the water. The entire reason you pay fucking IMAX tickets to watch that movie, you just dipped, and then you got back right as they got out of the water. Oh my gosh.
Well, to be fair, when he got back, they were still in the water, but he had just missed the very beginning. Now,
That's
he did say in real time, he did mention to me how unbelievably dazzled he was by the visual presentation of it. He just missed the very beginning.
I didn't even have to see that to acknowledge what a visual beauty that this movie is.
Kyle, no one's taking that away from you. We're not saying you can't appreciate it. I turned
to Alexis and I said, "Am I in a fucking aquarium? Because this looks fucking real."
All I'm saying is, if you wouldn't have peed, it'd be your number 10 right now.
All right.
Also, to add further clarification, of course, even though Peter, of course, doesn't believe this, we like a lot of these movies, and just because, as you know, Kyle just went to great lengths to stress that there were, certain films that pained him that weren't on his list. And I'm sure Peter will see the exact same thing. It's arbitrary, obviously, and sometimes it's hard to pick a top 10 list when there's like so many you actually really like. So that's understandable. Before we move on to Peter's list, I do want to mention David Francisco's honorable mentions, which included Elvis, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Smile, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Turning Red, Prey, and also, coincidentally enough, number 11, Avatar: The Way of Water.
That bitch. Oh, he's lucky he's in Japan.
He's actually back. He's back.
Well, once I get my plane ticket to Texas.
I mean, I would
Just
think
like-
your grievance would be more toward Alexis, who has basically refused to see this movie.
I think she does it on purpose.
She's
I think
refused to see Avatar: The Way of Water?
Yeah. She just doesn't want to acknowledge its existence. She doesn't care.
She's
What
a
the fuck?
monster.
Why?
Because she hates the first movie?
Monster. I think that's an attack on all indigenous peoples.
I don't know how we can follow that. Peter, please go ahead and talk about the films that are in your honorable mentions.
Okay, so here's the thing. I lied. I'm not going over everything I saw or liked. I'm going to go over the things you guys haven't mentioned yet. So, let's take it from the top.
By the way, there were plenty of things I didn't mention, but I just don't feel
Cool
the
your
point
jets,
in mentioning
fam.
them.
Cool
no, I
your
want to
jets.
Also,
be
some
clear about
things.
that.
Also, some things that are not mentioned are being saved for the actual top 10 list.
Well, yeah,
Jeez.
obviously. Like, so what are you going to
can't
mention that hasn't already been on the top 10 list? Like, what do you mean you can't even? You want to one-up us with that comment right there?
I can't even start my honorable mentions.
No, you
before
can't.
being viciously attacked at both sides.
No one is
This is
viciously
crazy.
attacking you. We're just correcting the record because some of your
Vicious.
statements leave a lot to be desired as far as, I don't know, context is concerned.
Where's that
There were
hammer and
plenty of-
nail?
Right? Like, there are plenty of films that I happen to like that I'm not going to mention because, I mean, they didn't come anywhere close to my top 10.
Whoa, dude. Chill. Okay? Can I at least get one movie out of my mouth before you jump down my throat?
You're on the clock, Peter. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Finally. Very sad and disappointed to see no one mention The Northman.
Are you fucking kidding me? Again with this? We just said, okay, what was the movie he mentioned, Kyle? I didn't even hear.
The Northman.
The Northman.
Okay, that was also very good and one of the best. And
Awesome, great. Thanks,
also, like-
thanks.
wait a minute. I don't understand this. Some of these movies might get mentioned in the top 10.
So anyway, next film, X. No one mentioned X. Very sad. Men.
This is where I start drinking.
Men.
Yeah, this is just stupid. Like, I like all these movies.
Okay. If you watch Men, you can see several men give birth to men. It's quite the sight. The Bob's Burger movie.
Also very good.
Yes. Shame it wasn't on your list. Prey. Prey was pretty good. No mention of it from you guys.
Are you not listening? David had that in his honorable
Hellraiser.
mentions.
Next film is Hellraiser.
For the record, David Moreno had Prey on his honorable mentions list.
Hellraiser. Also up there on the list. You know what? I'll throw it on there. Fuck you. Bullet Train. What else? The Whale. I like The Whale. I know the people aren't crazy for The Whale. I like The Whale. The Sea Beast. It's the Netflix animated film. It was nominated for Best Picture. It was pretty good. Mad God. Stop motion animation film. 30 years in the making by Phil Tippett. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Barbarian. None of you mentioned Barbarian. Barbarian good. Matilda the musical. I'm surprised you guys like musicals. No one saw Matilda the musical. She sings her butt off. Very good. Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Kyle, very disappointed. Did not hear that over there. The Menu. The Menu was good. The House. It's another stop motion film. 3 short stories. Very good. What else? I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Couple of things I forgot. I forgot to put on my honorable mentions Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm kidding. Nobody believed that for a second. Dragon Ball Superhero. I forgot to put that one as my honorable mentions. Very, very good. Argentina 1985. Pearl. Did you mention Pearl? Did you see Pearl?
Yeah. Did I not mention Pearl?
I don't.
You only mentioned
X. Yeah, not Pearl. Pearl was great.
I think it's I saw her face and I didn't read it when I was scrolling and I thought it was the same. No, yeah, Pearl. Pearl, good.
All of the Mickey Mouse animated shorts, 4 of them last year were great. Definitely worth anyone's time. The Northman, which you just mentioned. Apollo 10.5 by Richard Linklater. Really interesting animated film on Netflix. Also, Lucy and Desi, the Amy Poehler documentary on Prime Video about Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Very, very great documentary. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Embrace the Panda.
He plays very fast.
Embrace the Panda. Making of Turning Red was especially great.
That's a DVD commentary track at most.
This Place Rules, the documentary on, I believe it was HBO. I'll say this. I actually had a lot of fun with the Michael Bay movie this year. Ambulance.
Why'd you say it like that?
Because his films are usually awful.
I meant the word
pronunciation of ambulance.
What did I say?
Ambulance.
Okay. Anyway, let's see here. The animated short, New Moon. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and leave it off there. Anyway, anything else?
I also forgot to put The Northman.
Oh, so The Northman is on your honorable mentions?
Yes.
Okay.
And
so no one here had The Northman in the top 10?
No.
Okay. So
it's a damn good movie, but it's my least favorite of Robert Eggers.
I could agree with that.
I have no opinion of him. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the top 10. We will start off with David's top 10. Or his number 10 actually is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Boo. Terrible choice.
That is David's 10. Who would like to start with their number 10?
I can go.
Peter, go.
Okay. Let me see. My number 10 is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
You're lying.
Boo. Boo.
Seriously?
It's right here.
I just find it strange how this happens all the time. Like, two of us will put the same movie in the same position.
Mm-hmm.
This is so weird. Okay, Puss in Boots.
Why,
Yes.
Alexis, do you... Wait, no, you already mentioned Puss in Boots already.
Yeah, he did. Well, he wasn't honorable for him.
Yeah.
It was honorable for both of you.
Yeah. It was very close.
Yes. I mean, he's a cat. He's got
There it is.
boots.
There it is.
The cutest little boots. The animation.
You should have seen this coming in retrospect. There it is.
Who is your no?
Who was your favorite fearless hero?
It's just a solid all-around film. It's tight, fun, great animation, funny, good characters. It's just one of those where it's like, I think I watched it like 3 times in a row. It's just good, so fun. I don't have like too much crazy to say on it. It's just
you're supposed to be dead. I got better.
That's funny. It is funny. It's very funny.
Like the jokes really land. And the animation is beautiful.
It's also really emotional too. Like who would have thought
written.
A Puss in Boots film would be this emotionally resonant and hit this hard?
I think it's as emotional resonant as the How to Train Your Dragon movies.
It's up there for sure. Yeah,
the first one was your top 10 of all time. Do you not remember?
Maybe you're misremembering the show that he mentioned that movie in. I think you're saying it was his favorite of 2010.
No, remember? He has a list of his top favorite 50 films of all time. And How to Train Your Dragon was number 10.
Is that true, Kyle?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My screen literally just turned black right now.
Did something just happen to Kyle?
Can you hear me?
I think he's got black bagged or something.
That's not good. You're cutting in and out, Kyle. That's really interesting. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. 2 number 10s off the bat and out of the way with. I think you're back, Kyle. Can you see us?
I could see Audacity running. I don't see the script. Okay, you guys are coming back.
Awesome, possum.
Okay, you were saying then to finish your thought?
All right. Was it in my top 10?
I don't know. It's your list.
I don't know. My list fluctuates. I don't have an official top 10.
It's crazy how I know this. Okay.
Well, Peter,
it was literally number 10.
You claim it. Where's the evidence?
He literally had like a list written on like lined paper. He pulled out all folded up. It was a real physical list.
Do you have any proof?
He does. It's somewhere.
You see, that list was not a list of movies, but more of people I've done wrong, and I'm trying to correct that.
So are you disavowing that list, Kyle?
My list fluctuates all the time. I've evolved.
So that's not.
I think I wrote that list when I was like 15.
I'm hearing then you don't stand by that ranking.
No, I don't.
Okay, just say it then. just say that because you're beating around the bush. Just say that's not how I see things anymore. Maybe at one point it was in my top 10, but it no longer is.
I mean, it's in my top 50 for sure. I love How to Train Your Dragon.
So what's your number 10 then?
Okay, so my number 10.
This is the movie that edged out Avatar: The Way of Water, correct?
Finally, they made a good Predator sequel.
Oh, okay.
Oh, man.
I dig the shit out of Prey. I still think about this movie still to this day. I still think of all the action shots. I still think of how suspenseful they made the Predator, and I have not felt that since Schwarzenegger was at the helm of a Predator movie. And honestly, I just loved living in this world. It's so unique. It's a unique way to have your Predator and just like do the Carmen, the contrast of primeval weapons, and it's just amazing. Also, I love the fact that, I love the Native American representation in this movie. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But most importantly, I think, hold on, I'm trying to see what her name is. Hold on a second.
Mid-Thunder.
Amber Mid-Thunder, yes. I think she is fantastic in this movie. I think she is at the heart of this movie. I love the struggle that she has in this movie. Also, I think Dan Trachtenberg is an awesome director and could make, even the most like intimate scenes be the most like suspenseful and all that stuff. And the way that they had to deal with just primeval weapons to face this technological juggernaut, I think is just incredible. And just like it ties in with the theme of what this movie is. And so I just thought that it was really good and all that stuff. I mean, the last time I looked at a Dan Trachtenberg movie, it was with Cloverfield, with 13.
You mean Cloverfield? Not the original one. That's Matt Reeves.
Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic movie, and I love that movie just as much as I do with Prey, and it's fantastic. I love the way that it just made the Predator a lot more scarier. In fact, I think sometimes this, in some of the scenes, like when like you think that the dog is going to die, I think that, just like scenes like that are like the most intimidating. And I felt intimidated by this creature. And I think that's what makes Prey really stand out, that the Predator is intimidating. And I often think just like Smile, the curse was intimidating, and I think that the Predator was intimidating as well. So I really love Prey. I love it.
Right now, it's really interesting, Kyle. David's list and the exact ranking of it looks closest to yours right now, because Prey was number 12, right behind his number 11, which was Avatar. But then you put it ahead of Avatar, which is only just behind Prey. And then he had Puss in Boots above both Prey and Avatar. So pretty interesting how you guys are just like this close in difference of these movies. I do want to say though, of course I respect your opinion, but I for one, I can't fathom that choice because, and you can tell me I'm wrong all day and all night. Please go ahead.
You're wrong.
But I was really bored by Prey.
Really?
I really didn't care about that movie. And I even tried watching it again, and it just didn't grab me. And clearly I'm wrong because everybody loves that film. It just didn't. It didn't grab my attention. I don't know. It was like, okay, it was a Predator movie, but I don't know. It just kind of looked, I don't know, drabbed. I don't know. That film just didn't click with me, and sometimes they don't. But yeah, that's why it was just not mentioned anywhere near.
Oh, also
the movies I liked.
I really love the brother-sister dynamic between some of the characters. I think that they could have easily made it look like the brother was a complete asshole, but there's a little bit more nuance to that, and I like that.
Okay, my number 10 is Top Gun Maverick. This was very surprising for a lot of reasons. First of all, I didn't know anything about Top Gun until the previous weekend when I saw the film at home, the original movie. And talk about boring, that movie was just putting me to sleep. That is not one that has aged well at all.
You didn't feel the need
No.
for speed?
No, not at all. And I went into seeing this new installment of it, and when it started exactly the same way as the first movie did, I was like, uh-oh, what are we in for? Because is this going to be another one of these like requel movies where it's like the exact same thing all over again? But what ended up happening was a genuinely heartfelt film that had a ensemble cast, in all the ways, and delivered also on the spectacle and visuals in all the ways, a movie that I would, see on TV when I was growing up. It reminded me a lot of those kind of like 90s films, a lot of those 90s dad movies, but that were also really good too. The action was exhilarating. That whole third act, you just like were constantly at the edge of your seat. I can definitely understand the appeal as to why this was the film that brought everybody back to go see. This really just blew me away. And also one of Tom Cruise's better performances as well. Just really good all around. So this was just an overall piece that I don't think I could have ignored, putting it here at number 10. So that's for me at number 10. Number 9, Peter.
Number 9. Let's get into this. At number 9, oh fuck, I have Glass Onion, a Benoit Blanc story. Mystery, sorry. Directed by Ruin Johnson.
God damn it. All right.
This is also another movie I saw like 3 times in a row. It's so much fun. It's so well executed. Ruin Johnson can do absolutely zero wrong in my book. I've yet to see a film where I didn't walk away going, I love this film and I love this man. It's great. I love it. Sorry. Okay, never mind. Go. Yes, it's great. Sorry, I'm short circuiting.
Are you having technical issues as well?
Something popped up that said it was gonna update in an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. The laptop.
We'll cross that hill when we cross it.
Yeah. But no, I think I still enjoy the first Benoit Blanc adventure mystery a little bit more, but this one was so good. I really loved the updated cast. I loved the journey of going back and forth through time and revealing things in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, consider me really excited for whatever the third one comes with, but yeah, I could watch a million Benoit Blanc mysteries.
David's number 9 is The Banshees of Inisherin. Kyle.
Number 9. Everybody loves a comeback story. Everybody loves a comeback story. And boy, this is a comeback story if there ever was one.
Kim Kardashian?
And I got the reference. No, but I think that the comeback story, and he is the comeback kid of the hour. And that is Mr. George of the Jungle himself, Brendan Fraser. Oh my God, he stuns in this movie. The makeup is great. The costuming is great.
Are you going to say the name of the movie?
It's The Whale.
The Whale.
The Whale. And honestly, I just felt bad throughout the whole entire movie, but in a good way. Also, it sprung out some of my own insecurities, but I'm not going to address that right now because this is not a therapy session. But yeah, honestly, I think that this is a really good film. I love his persistence and what seems like this, his daughter, played by Sadie Sink, is like the most like horrendous beast of a child that you've ever seen, but she's, but his persistence and his absolute adoration for her is something else. And seeing somebody, you know, dealing with a traumatic event and something so negatively, and seeing case in point, the relapse scene where he relapses hard, I just felt like I was watching somebody's utter emotional and mental downfall. And it was horrifying to watch, more horrifying than any other movie that came out last year. And I feel like it really drove it home. And Brendan Fraser just breaks my heart just watching his persistence of what he's feeling. And he captures it so sincerely. Honestly, I've never seen prosthetics in a way this good. Because with the outfit that he was wearing to portray this character, I saw no seams, because oftentimes I could be able to tell where the seams are in a costume or makeup or something like that. Not with this one at all. It's honestly a technological wonder how they were able to pull this off so convincingly. And I think that Brendan Fraser wears that to such a convincing degree that I'm just like, I'm completely bought into this whole thing. It like what's mentioned before, that this movie could be very play-esque, but it does come from a play. You know, it was a play before it turned into that. But I love what Darren Aronofsky did with this film, and I think that he really drove home the point with this. Yeah, and it stuck with me still to this day.
Yes, The Whale is a really good movie that seemingly got, you know, a really bad rap for, at least from our perspective, the as per usual reasons of like, really? This is kind of a stupid thing to complain about. Okay, so he's fat. What about it? It's fat shaming? Okay.
That wasn't the point.
I don't think he was doing that, but okay, whatever there. My number 9, it's interesting, Peter, for how bitterly we disagree about a certain film. We seemingly are in lockstep with this one. Number 9, Glass Onion. Interestingly enough, here, Rian Johnson, or Ruin Johnson, as the Star Wars crowd loves to call him, has ruined yet another movie. No, but seriously, this guy is... I don't want to say he has a Midas touch, but he's one of those people right now in the industry that whatever he does just instantly becomes, or it just instantly is, one of the best things around. And I don't know if it's just because most of the things that he's involved with usually has a touch of genre-ness to it, for why that his work is largely ignored by, you know, for lack of a better group, the Academy or the overall critics groups out there. But his stuff is quality. His stuff is top notch. And between Knives Out and this one, Glass Onion, they're among the best written films maybe ever made. Because truly, how is it that you can make not one, but 2 murder mysteries that really at the end of the day, the answer to the whodunit is quite obvious and hidden in plain sight, and yet continuously keeps you on your toes, and all the while is able to write such brilliant, quirky characters that in and of themselves are kind of stand-ins for a slew of social commentary left and right, and particularly with Glass Onion. Talk about a film that just came out at the right moment, and it really kind of speaks to, and I think it's the embodiment of what Rian Johnson has sought to do with these films, which was to really emulate Agatha Christie and her works, which were very much written and were the byproducts of the era that she lived in, as well as these films. And with Glass Onion, the social commentary that was interwoven so seamlessly with who these characters were and the overall mystery, I mean, that has to be some of the most impressive work from a writing standpoint I've ever seen a movie do, or a writer much less do. And I don't think it gets the credit that honestly it deserves. And that's just, the writing mechanism of it. That doesn't even include the dialogue, which was superb. Everything that came out of Kate Hudson's mouth was hysterical. The Beyonce tribute, the going on Oprah and comparing herself to Harriet Tubman in spirit, as she would say, but it's so ingenious, of course. And the things, and I knew that go ahead.
You could definitely tell Rian Johnson was pissed when he was writing the script.
I mean, pissed at a lot of people for sure. That character particularly had like parties during the COVID situation. Even the smallest things, like, for example, Benoit Blanc, fangirling over all of these, like, technological, like, privileged things that Edward Norton had on his island that were kind of like actually him kind of overacting on purpose in a way, because he was really in disguise the entire time. And it kind of like completely like went over my head. Even to the smaller things, like how it is that his character, Edward Norton, would just constantly use the wrong word, like abbreviate, like let's abbreviate this moment. And it did kind of catch me a little bit off guard in the moment of it. Like, that's not the right use of that word. And it's like, but then it actually became a thing later on when, Benoit Blanc does what he does best and unravel this whole donut, or this hole in the donut's hole. I don't know if anything
the glass onion, as it were.
I don't know if anything can top, his original outing in Knives Out, as particularly the sequence when he's like unraveling the entire donut hole. But it came really close. It's really hard to say like which is technically better. I think I prefer the first one still, but they're both just like they're both just on an equal level playing field. And if you love Benoit Blanc, and it's a great film, and it's an amazing time at the theater, and I can't wait. I can't wait for the next installment. So that was my number 9. That is Glass Onion, which is also a film that Peter had as his number 9. So again, the cosmos is just syncing up in some ways, where these movies are ending up in the same positions on our lists, which is interesting. Peter, would you like to give us your number 8 film?
I would. This goes out to all the haters. Number 8 is Babylon. Okay.
Disgusting.
Babylon is a damn fine film.
If you say so.
It's an expansive, epic, like the kind that Hollywood will no longer make. Beautifully, meticulously put together by one of the best craftsmen working in Hollywood today.
I don't
Mr.
remember
Chazelle.
hearing all these compliments when La La Land came out. In fact, all I heard was nothing but criticisms and accusations of pretentiousness. Now, all of a sudden, Babylon is like, oh, it's this really interesting craftsman. Oh, I don't remember hearing these things when La La Land came out. In fact, all I recall were like put-downs and insults and slights, but go ahead.
So before I was rudely interrupted by a raving lunatic, I was talking about how meticulously crafted.
Meticulously, say it with me. Meticulously.
So the performances. Margot Robbie was robbed because...
I mean, that's her namesake, right?
Yes. She should have been nominated. She was
Margot Robbie,
good.
I just got...
You know what? I'll say it. Jean Smart. As the critic in the film.
She was good.
If any, I would say, I'd even go so far as to say she deserved a Best Supporting Actress nomination above the winner herself this year. So, that's saying so. For that scene alone between her and Brad Pitt. And yeah, you know what? If the third final 10 minutes of the film fucking rules. If you can't see that, you do not deserve Cinema.
So for the commoners, Peter, can you please elaborate why that ending of the film meant so much to you?
Go watch it.
Everybody here has seen it.
I'm saying at home.
Oh, okay.
Because no one else watched it. That's for damn sure. Watch it. And if you get it, then you'll get it. And if you don't get it, fuck you. Okay.
Yeah, Babylon was one of the biggest bombs of the last year, and that's saying something.
I don't need a clip show to fucking tell me that movies are great. I know they are.
Don't you think that last stretch was a bit much?
It's
like,
everything it needed to be.
You sure about that? Like, did we really need to see Avatar?
Yes.
Did we need to see all those movies? Like, it didn't it seem a bit excessive?
No.
Also, like, there was a point where it was just fucking, like, colors, like, splashing on the screen with music, and I'm like, okay?
That is the essence of cinema. Colors. Combining. Refraction from light. In order for you to view a picture as it moves. Like I said, if you get it, you get it.
I'm just saying, Damien, you know, he didn't do his job well, because if he needed that clip show to show us how great movies are.
It's showing not to... You know what? Fuck you. Fuck everyone. This movie
Fuck you too.
This
This film has its moments. It has its moments of pure brilliance.
It has every moment. That's 3 hours of brilliance.
It wasn't woven together at all.
Yes, it was.
Like, you're the person that likes to like critique other films of like they're not like threading all the stuff that's in it together. Like, I'm sure you will attack another film for sure. But this 100%. one, I mean, also,
you know what? I hear those accusations.
By the end of the movie, like, what do you mean actual what? It's pretty apparent. Like, why would you care ultimately about, like, Nellie Leroy? By the end of that movie, I was with Kyle. I was like, yeah, just kill her. Like, who wants to see her succeed anymore? Like, it's like, no, you found her to be a likable presence? Really? She was a disaster in the making.
Sorry, I don't hate women like you two.
It's just like, it's hard to see anybody like care that much about these characters.
I support women's rights and their wrongs.
Okay. Number 8 for David was actually, surprise, surprise, The Northman. Someone actually put it on their top 10, and that was David. Which, I have to say, I think The Northman can be considered the most commercial of his movies.
The most commercial? Oh, you mean the director? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What's his name? Eggers. I think it's his most commercial. This is the most commercial, or the closest, I would say, he's come to a film that more audiences can enjoy. In comparison to The Witch or The Lighthouse. That being said, he's been somebody that's consistently, well, I don't know. The Lighthouse left me very cold. Even though I know you two love it and you two love Eggers, so
to be fair, that island was really, really cold.
Sure. But I really enjoyed The Northman and really didn't find much to really, I don't know. I didn't have any issues with the film. I thought it was very good. So I'm surprised the film that I happen to enjoy of his, you guys were like, he's got better movies. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Because he does.
He does. The Northman is a masterpiece. Sorry, not The Northman. It is really good. The
Lighthouse.
Fuck. The Lighthouse. There we go.
The Witch was awesome. I absolutely fucking love that movie.
Kyle? Number 8?
All right.
Babylon 2?
Yes, it is very much Babylon. With this movie, let me just say it. do you like to go on the highway to the danger zone? Because I do. Do I have much nostalgia for the original incarnation of Top Gun? No, I do not. But that being said, I love the fact that a movie could come in a cesspool that is sequels and reboots. I'm glad that they could take upon original concepts such as the original film and build upon it and make it even better. I thoroughly enjoyed the original Top Gun. Actually, I'm not like, I do enjoy it. It's a good 80s romp and stuff like that. However, I do find that the character of Maverick itself is a lot more developed. I do find, and also some surprising emotional scenes that I find amazingly that are deeply resonant with me. And on like the cinematography with this movie is absolutely fantastic. I love like what they did with all like the plane shots, and it's just I honestly, this would be one of those movies that I would like to see in 3D because of all of the plane shots. When they're up in the air doing their aerial tricks and whatnot, I find it's really, really deeply entertaining and thrilling to watch. Tom Cruise, I think he did great as Maverick. He is fantastic, but also I love the dynamic that he has between him and Miles Teller, and I think Miles Teller did a really good job in this movie as well. That scene with Val Kilmer, it made me cry, actually, just to see, because I know that Val Kilmer has been through a lot of shit. And just the fact that he's in this movie, and it just like, it's almost like a tribute to himself. I think it was just an added level of touchiness with him. I love the dynamic between Jennifer Connelly and Tom Cruise a lot better than I did with that other girl. I think that their chemistry is a lot more significant in that regard. I hate to sound like one of those people, but they sure don't make them like they used to, and this feels like just one of those good old-fashioned blockbusters. It felt like a good blockbuster that, it just felt like old-fashioned movies. It just sounded like old-fashioned movies. Yeah.
My number 8, speaking of a film that almost feels like the definition of a classic blockbuster in the ways that they used to. I think today, more so than anything else, it's merely just a spectacle that I think is front and forward when it comes to blockbusters. But talk about a film that actually took the idea of spectacle and expanded it far more than I think anybody would have thought would be possible in what I think otherwise could also be considered a blockbuster in and of itself, in the days of Close Encounters or Jaws, very much in that same vein. That's how it was mentioned. This is Jordan Peele's third film, Nope, his follow-up to Get Out and Us. And, I feel like if for those of you who have been listening for a while, you all know that this is a movie that all of us happen to really enjoy. And more than I would say than most people would freely admit to, we all are of the mind that this is his best movie, or at least the one that we prefer more so than the other ones. And as far as for why it didn't receive the response that it did from other groups, which, of course, shame on them, it getting absolutely nothing. It is a sci-fi horror film that ended up getting a mixed reaction in a month that no one was watching films, and so it got lost in the shuffle. And that is a damn shame, because quite honestly, this is one of the more rewarding films of the year as far as just like getting inside the mind that is Jordan Peele for all of the things that were like littered in this film as far as theme is concerned, but then also just things that are there that you maybe are still not quite sure what it led to or why it was there. But it is just, to me, the more interesting films are the ones that continue to strike conversation about like, how do you think this thing went, or how did this work for you, or the Gordy, of course, of it all, and whether or not it was apparent for why it was there in the first place. Even some of the, as little as the facial reactions of certain characters as to like, what is the true, emotion hidden behind that. And then just a big like F you to all of us who thought it would be a simple alien film in that one sequence where he actually does do a little bit of a, what do you call it? What's the name for that? A fake out.
Bait
where
and switch?
he makes you, a bait and switch, where he makes you think like you're about to go onto this film. And even if it was that, it's like, I could make this movie, but I won't. But even if just for a scene, I'll give it to you. And it's so unbelievably terrifying. Like for me, and of course the ongoing thing of me in these podcasts is that, of course, there's a thing for aliens that I have, but putting myself and reminding what it felt like watching that scene for the first time, I wanted to get up and run the hell away from that because it was so creepy and scary. And even though that wasn't anywhere close to how unsettling what was to follow was about this creature, this concept for a creature that also by design resembles that of a camera, and how it devours people and then how it craps them out with this rain blood cloud. It was just, and the screams, like of course this I think I drove to Comic-Con that weekend of this movie, and there was nothing but clouds all over the horizon. And you think that I wasn't thinking of what could be hidden in those things. And I think I walked out of it with Peter, because he wasn't with us the first time, but I saw it with Peter the second time. And we were by the concession stand, and in the distance, I heard screams, which turned out to be the carousel, just nearby. But I'm like, in my mind, just having seen the film, like, oh shit, just like a little bit of a red flag went up on there. And I think, honestly, the thing Keke Palmer's amazing. I think all the actors do a great job. But for me, the thing that's not really spoken to enough is the understated yet truly just brilliant performance that is Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah.
It takes a lot, I would say, to convey so much emotion and even just thoughts with just his eyes or his face. And to me, that alone was worthy of a discussion for Best Actor. I think he was, just because, by design, his character wasn't as in your face as Keke Palmer was, doesn't mean that his performance didn't have truly, or, a greatness to it to offer the movie. So Jordan Peele's Nope is just an endlessly fascinating film. And one I believe the Morenos haven't seen yet. So that's on them.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's not on their list, and I know for a fact they haven't seen it, so, which is a damn shame. Because this is truly one of the best films of the year, and I think Jordan Peele's personal best. It's going to be hard to top this one, because it is all the same thing. It has a little bit of sci-fi intrigue, but it's got, just truly, like, horrible things in it that are, not like in-your-face scary, but the more you think about it, just so unsettling. Deeply, deeply unsettling. So that for me is my number 8. Let's move on, unless anybody has any additional commentary, but
I'm saving that.
Okay. Number 7, Peter, would you please tell us which is your film that ranked 7 on your list?
Number 7 is Avatar, The Way of Water.
I'm disappointed. Oh my God, really? That low on your list? The film that you were like so going gaga for, and only number 7 on your list?
It was a very good year. Don't even start. It is higher than all of the rest of years. It is higher than all the rest of years.
That's actually not true, but okay. You want to make that statement right now, but I can tell you for a fact that's not the truth.
I'm making it. Okay.
But, talk about a ridiculous ranking. It's even more so than putting Dune at number 2. And of all things, having Encanto be on top of Dune. Still not over that, whatever that was.
Avatar 2, The Way of Water. Ain't nobody does it like my boy Jimmy Cameron. Okay?
Okay.
This movie, and this has been said many times before, visually incredible. It's crazy because you think he didn't have much higher to go as far as improving visuals after the first Avatar. This second one really blows it out of the water.
No pun intended, right?
Pun very much intended.
Okay.
Some mind-numbingly beautiful
visuals,
and not just visuals, but like tricks, like Spider. The way he interacts with the rest of these entirely CG 10-foot alien creatures and looks 100% real.
It's so organic and seamless.
Yeah, it's insane. But beyond that, one of the best things about, I think, Avatar as a blockbuster is the way that it breathes. The way that it takes time to just soak in atmosphere and emotion of not any in particular action or act, but just a state of mind.
It reminds every movie out there that inhabits this blockbuster space that you don't need to, in every single second or frame of your film, have to be about the plot. Mm-hmm. You can, for instance, spend, which is what he did, a whole hour. The whole second act was just living on the planet and the environment. And that in and of itself can be far more invigorating than just continuously reminding us about getting from point A to point B.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's the part beyond the visuals is what's so unique about Avatar as a series. Beyond that, the characters I think you really connect with in deeper ways than you did the first. Like I said, Mr. Cameron, he knows his blockbusters. He knows his characters. Mm-hmm. He knows how to, even though it's simple storytelling, it's effective storytelling.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Yes. He made 3 hours feel like 2, which is absolutely incredible. Again, I saw this multiple times in the theater, and I never got bored. I was with it the entire time. It's impeccable blockbuster filmmaking, especially at a moment where it was sorely needed.
Well, coming off a decade where it was sorely needed.
Yes, that's my number 8. No, 7.
Just when the world needed the Avatar most, he vanished.
He returned.
At number 7 is a film that has already been mentioned for David, so we won't dwell too much on this. It is Top Gun. So Top Gun is David's number 7. Kyle.
So everybody, I want you guys to take out your pints. I need you guys to discuss this and break down that sometimes friendship breakups are a lot harder.
The Hobbit.
Yes. No, the Banshees of Inisherin. It oh my god. No fucking words. It's kind of hard to explain all the different themes and different elements of this movie. But, you know, if just the shock, this might be spoilers that have been trying to but you know what? This movie has already been out, so I'm going to go.
We've talked about it already.
Yeah.
On this show, yeah.
If Brendan Gleeson chopping off all of his fingers to prove a point shocks you, I don't think that this movie is for you. It's one of those movies where I feel like it's devastatingly funny to be watching this. Like, it's so fucked up in what it is. And I don't know. I think the Irish accents really add on to the humor, the tragic humor that is this movie. Also, a great quote from Brendan Gleeson. If it's a sin to punch a policeman, we might as well go home. Love that.
Pack up and go home. I love it.
Love that line.
Martin McDonough fucking hates the police. You can. Oh my god.
But yeah, I love.
In confession, he said that no less to a fucking priest. Can you believe that?
I love when a priest could also come out of it, and it was like, "Fuck you," after a confession. Yeah, Brendan Gleeson is remarkable in this movie. Also, Colin Farrell. Oh my god! If there was anybody who deserved that Oscar aside from Brendan Fraser, it's gotta be Colin Farrell, because Colin Farrell really hit it out of the park. Just him constantly trying to find closure with his horrible friendship breakup, and Brendan Gleeson just persistently not giving him the time of day. Fucked up, but again, they're Irish, so yeah, also the cinematography. Oh my god, I think Ireland itself was another character of this movie. And it's quite it's quite funny. The translation for Inner Sharon is the island of Ireland. So fucking funny. But anyway, yeah, just the whole entire thing. One of the last shots of the movie is absolutely breathtaking, and it's just like just a moment between these two characters, and it's just it's absolutely beautiful. Barry Keoghan, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Just say Keoghan.
Keoghan? Why? Is it debated now?
No, well, it really isn't. Everyone just says Keoghan.
Keoghan?
And no one's disputing it, so just say it's Barry Keoghan.
Okay, Barry Keoghan. Okay, he is fantastic in this movie as well. I don't know what the name of the character's name, but I'm just gonna say Carrie Condon. She's remarkable.
Siobhan.
She is
Siobhan.
She is amazing in this as well.
Yes.
I like when she was.
Was I ever wild?
I like when
that fucking scene.
I love when she was talking to Barry, and tragically, say, "Why don't you go back to your own house? I'm pretty sure it's a barrel of laughs." It's just funny. It's just really funny, really funny. I loved every scene of it. It felt uncomfortable, but in a good way. And it just, yeah. It's so good. I could smell the air that's on the island, you know? Also, poor Jenny. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's for sure. My number 7. Well, I would say there's a lot to be said about Banshees, and we'll get to it. And number 7, I have to say, I feel like this movie being number 7 really kind of speaks to how much I loved certain movies this year. Number 7 is The Batman.
Wow.
Number 7 is The Batman. And The Batman is just about everything you'd want a comic book film to be these days. And to me, that movie has kind of the rare distinction in that, remember when we all saw it and we were all feeling the same way about it, and we were just taken for this ride the way that movies are supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I still can't believe how fucking good that movie was. I don't care if it was fucking 3 hours long. I don't care that in moments it's kind of hard to see like a little bit of the, I mean, it's supposed to be, you know, from, you know, the story and everything, but it's one that is embedded in the idea that it's a mystery and that we're putting Bruce Wayne back into a position of being a detective of sorts. And I think it really worked wonders on not just the film overall, but just in getting us to really care about this character. Like, to me, as someone who very easily is perhaps the least in caring about the whole Batman lore, in comparison to the rest of you. I mean, I think for me, this is very easily my favorite Batman movie. It is the most I cared about not just Bruce Wayne, but everybody in it. And it gives us an incredible villain with an incredible performance by Paul Dano. That doesn't even mention all the other people who are great in it. The set pieces are brilliant. Even the romance that's in there between Batman and Catwoman is like, god damn. The music that was provided here by Michael Giacchino, I cannot believe how that went overlooked. Quite easily the best score of the entire year, and it's not even close. It's going to be really hard to see how Matt Reeves can top this, because honestly, this is just damn near perfect for me. And the idea that it came in at number 7, mind you, at one point, this was like at number 2 or 3 on my list, early on in the year. But the idea that this came at number 7 is quite shocking. But I think that just speaks to 6 films that I happen to connect to just a bit more so on that. So with that being said, Peter, I believe it is your turn to reveal your number 6 movie of 2022.
Number 6. Well, what do you know? The Banshees of Inisherin. Very, very Irish.
That's putting it lightly.
I really loved this movie. I found it to be a very spiritual film, I feel. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting sort of movement through this idea of loneliness and loss and sort of the anger and brewing in these people that are going nowhere and ignoring the horror that's just outside of their island. It's so dark and so funny at the same time, which is something Martin McDonagh is just, he's perfected. And I'm sure him being Irish helps that out quite a bit. Yeah, I would watch a million hours of Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson just doing anything together.
Yeah.
I'll second that. I would also add in there Barry Keoghan for sure.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure we can all understand what I mean by that. I cannot believe someone had the sense in that film. Or can you believe we saw a film and
yes,
she turned him down? Who would turn down that?
Carrie Condon.
Apparently. Can you believe that? Jesus. I was like, and then he killed himself.
Mm-hmm.
What? Yeah.
I mean, I would too.
Okay. I just leave, but okay. Continue.
That's about it.
The only woman in the island turned you down.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
That is pretty tough.
She's not the only woman. There's also, what's her name?
The witch?
The old bat, yeah.
Mm-mm.
That's very much like, remember in Endgame, it was like, really? I wound up with this? It was either that or a tree.
That's funny. I gotta ask you guys, would you say, between this movie and Three Billboards, which is his previous work, which would you prefer?
Ooh, that's really tough.
Because if I'm not mistaken, if I recall back the recordings that we did back in that year, we were all kind of parroting the idea that Three Billboards was the best movie of that year.
Kinda, yeah.
Or close to it.
Here's the thing. I talk to me again in 2 years. I need to digest more with
It's
Banshees.
tough, yeah. Even with the best films, you have to you gotta let them stew.
Because 3 Billboards is
outstanding.
outstanding.
Interesting because I feel the answer is pretty easy, but I guess we'll get that later on my list. Unless Peter or Kyle, you had something else to say on that?
Yeah. Also, to add on to like the whole discussion of this movie, I love the fact that in the backdrop, literally in the backdrop, there's an Irish Civil War.
Yeah.
Like a perfect metaphor for what's going on.
Exactly.
And none of them really know what the war is about.
Yeah. And yet this movie went away empty-handed.
And that's kind of like what the character is, because they, to be honest, both of them don't really know why they're having this friendship precipice, going on. So, yeah.
All right. David's number 6 film happens to be, I can't wait to see the reaction on your faces. David's number 6 film happens to be one that I also really, really loved for a really specific reason, because of the history I've had with the stories. And I can also say this is probably the only movie that Julio Dominguez saw last year, but here it is on David's number 6
goes
movie.
to Japan once.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
David's number 6 movie of the year is Dragon Ball Superhero.
Motherfucker only goes to Japan once, and all of a sudden. All right.
I guess.
Whatever, David. Whatever.
Okay, Kyle, would you like to go or should I go for number 6?
Oh, my love.
Of course.
My darling.
Oh, okay.
This movie I hunka burn in love.
Oh God, wrap it up. We're done.
Oh my goodness. I'm a sucker for Baz Luhrmann's films. I really am. I love his work. This is no exception. I love the framing device for this movie to present Elvis as like the superhero and Tom Hanks as the villain. The acting was well-rounded, and honestly, like, you take one of the biggest names of music in general, one of the biggest names, and of course you're gonna have Baz Luhrmann do his thing, and it's just so outlandish, so exuberant, so feels like you're on LSD half of the time, but in a good way. And it's just, you really feel the emotions with this movie. And I was just grinning throughout the whole 2.5, whatever, how many hours this movie is. And I was just in it for the ride. I loved every second of it. Even like the remixes of Elvis's classic songs, I found really, really tastefully done. I love the incorporation of like modern music. Again, like what Boz did with Great Gatsby. A clear example of what you could do in a movie about an era in the 20s, unlike another movie that we've mentioned before. I'm not going to say that name again.
You keep it out of your mouth.
But like what he did with Gatsby, it just like, it really sells home the point of the whole grandness. And this movie is just grand. It's an absolutely grand. It's a grand picture. And I just feel like it just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm a sucker for Baz Luhrmann's films, and Baz Luhrmann really did a great job with this movie. I can't say any more great things about it. It's just fantastic.
Okay, my number 6, going from, one animated film on David's 6 to mine, and that happens to be Turning Red. Up until Lightyear happened, Pixar was on a roll, Disney was on a roll, and then, things just fell apart. But this is a film that ultimately, like Luca the previous year, was robbed of a, theatrical experience, and one that I really believe would have hit really hard if it had been given the chance to do so, because this is just, on a pure entertainment standpoint, one of the most entertaining movies of the year and one of the more hilarious films of the year as well. There is just something, so special in the bond between a mother and a daughter, but then even more to the point, I feel like, this only adds on to, the trend that Peter kind of called out when we walked out of, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is, kind of an ongoing theme that these films have kind of been, going at, which is, just the process of, healing and forgiveness, but then also growing alongside, an older generation that took them most of their life to get to this point of, acceptance and encouragement. The idea of, May being so afraid to change. Of course, the panda is an allegory for whatever you want to put on it, and it works, whatever it is you think you can, relate to. But the friendships here are great. The overall themes. There's just a beauty to this film that I don't think has really been appreciated as much as it honestly deserves to be. So, with that being said, that is my number 6 movie, Turning Red, and I'm just going to go ahead and keep the ball rolling. I'm going to switch up the order. I'm going to go to my number 5 movie. My number 5 movie is another animated film, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which, again, seemingly, I want to say for a lot of the films that I'm going to have in my top 5, I seemingly like more than everybody else. This happens to be one of these movies where I went to go see in theaters twice because I ended up really loving it that much so. Talk about a movie having this kind of aura to itself that is just old worldly and charming and simple and emotional and beautiful. And I understand that some of us weren't quite captured by this film. But I was just irresistibly so, with that wonderful score and just the simple beauty in the emotion in Geppetto, first with Geppetto and Carlo, and the tragedy that happens, and of course that births Pinocchio. To me, it is quite easily the best representation of that story to date, and one that is far more relevant for these times. And again, also
even surpassing the original Disney film.
I was about to ask that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, easily.
Wow.
Is that even a serious question? I'm sorry. I love the original Disney animated movie, but it's like that shouldn't even be a serious question. The emotion, the emotional powerhouse that is stacked in this film is far more just brilliantly executed, but just far more relevant than the older one could ever be. It is a tale of Pinocchio where the kid isn't asked to be anything other than himself. I mean, that's the whole point of the story, is that the father should never have asked the son to change who he was. And that, to me, is a far more relevant picture and story for these times. The stop motion, the puppetry, and the animation, I think, is at a level that is just, I mean, to say that it's top notch would be an understatement. It is a visual visual masterpiece, and one that I'm going to be watching for the rest of my life. I absolutely adore this movie, and I know nobody else apparently here feels the same way, which, fine. I'll take that. So that is my number 5 movie. That is Pinocchio. So who would like to go next?
Peter.
Number 5. The good old 5-0. Okay. Number 5 is a film that's been mentioned before. The Batman. Dun, 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 dun. By the way, did you guys see the little preview they had for the Penguin show today?
I did. It looks pretty good. I want to see it.
Didn't even know it existed.
Well, there you go. This is the thing. I love Batman. Batman's like top 2 best or favorite comic book characters for me. Maybe top 3, but definitely top 3. The Batman is like a perfect Batman film. It explores the character in classic but also new and interesting ways. All the side characters, both original and from the comics, are taken very seriously, brilliantly acted. It's a beautiful film. It's probably the best looking comic book film in a long time. A very long time. Like, it is gorgeous.
And ironically enough, this movie utilizes the volume.
Right? Greg Fraser's
can we
the
just
only
clarify
one who knows
something?
how to use
The
it.
volume gets a bad rap. That isn't the problem. It's the people who use the volume, or should we say misuse the volume, that don't know how to, quite frankly, operate
That's
it.
what I meant.
Okay. It's just that the volume is a great piece of technology. That isn't the issue. It's the people who are ill-equipped to do it and don't know how to use it. Marvel sucks at it because they refuse to put in any time, much less any effort, in the way their movies look. Continue, Peter.
Alexis has stock in the company that produces the volume. It's been one of those films where it's almost addicting to me. If I put it on just to watch the first 10 minutes, I'm watching through the rest of it. Because it so mesmerizes me. So the beauty of Gotham, the classic detective story, the great costume. What's his name? Is
Pattinson.
Pattinson is pitch perfect as
Or
Batman.
Battinson.
Pattinson is great. I love that. I think he's the best Batman.
Really?
Ever? I mean, to me, it's a yes, but you mean ever?
Ever? Not, well, movie-wise, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, I am on pins and needles excited about the Batman Part 2.
What do you think about the notion that Clayface is going to be the one who's going to be the big bad?
I really trust Matt Reeves. So it's one of those things, like, whatever I hear, it's like, okay, let's see it.
But also, can you hurry up? I want to see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's taking his fucking time. That's for damn sure.
Better be fucking... Well, it's going to be great.
Like, you don't see a Denis Villeneuve taking 3 years in between films. They're going to get Dune Part 2 just this year.
Yeah. Denny's got his shit together.
And shall we say, I think he has more trials and tribulations to overcome, considering it's a sci-fi franchise and that whole situation.
Yo.
So that was the Batman. Kyle, you were left. Your number 5 movie. No, real quick. David's number 5 movie is The Whale.
Wow. That's pretty high.
Damn it, you took it from me. All right. Number 5. I do declare.
Wow.
I fucking love Glass Onion.
Does he ever say that at all in any of the films? I do declare.
No, he doesn't.
I don't think he does.
Not once.
Are you sure not the first one?
No.
Huh. We have to watch it again. But anyway, I love the multiple layers. See what I did there of this movie. I love that you think that this is going to go one way, but it doesn't, like Jake Skywalker once said, this is not going to go the way you think. And there it is. It doesn't go the way we think. And like there are such clear choices in this movie and like predictable things that you're like, but wait a minute, this is Rian Johnson. He's not going to pick the obvious, route. But then it turns out he does. And that's what's like the most surprising of this movie. All the twists and turns is absolutely fantastic. And also much akin to where Ana de Armas and Daniel Craig were in the first Glass Onion. I think this dynamic might be better with him and Janelle Monáe. I think that Janelle Monáe is probably the MVP of this movie because, my God, she makes this whole damn spectacle convincing and honestly, like, fucking fantastic. I think that this movie is fantastic. There's not enough that because we've already discussed this already in another podcast, but I think that this movie is just terrific. I love how pissed off Rian Johnson was throughout this whole entire writing process. Also, last film that to feature one Miss Angela Lansbury. What a great movie to leave off on. And I think that it's just great. It's just great. Rian Johnson can do no wrong in my eyes.
Before we move on, since you mentioned Jake Skywalker, Peter, would you like to share the theory you have about what may potentially happen in the upcoming Filoni movie in Mandoverse?
I think it's all but guaranteed. I'm willing to bet money on it that one of the big moments in the movie, like fan moments, is the original crew of Han,
Leia.
Luke, and Leia, all digitally de-aged, gonna be there together, looking like lifeless AI monstrosities. Also, the fans can stand up and clap. It's gonna be great.
That was the appropriate reaction. That long sigh was the appropriate reaction.
I'm feeling nauseous now.
Right?
No, I'm literally feeling nauseous now.
No, I didn't. Oh, so you weren't exaggerating.
I'm not exaggerating. I'm feeling
You're
nauseous.
actually feeling nauseous. Okay. Well, would you like to just go ahead and go to your number 4, Kyle?
You see, when you're like, apparently nobody, cared about this movie and all this stuff, you are dead wrong, my friend. And if my nose had any indication of me lying about it, you would see no growth whatsoever. Because I think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is fantastic. Probably one of the best animated movies I've seen probably since Moana. No, I stand corrected. Spider-Verse. I would say Spider-Verse. It's a damn fantastic film. I think what Guillermo del Toro was able to do with this classic fairy tale and completely turn it on its head is a unique experience all in itself. Like I said about Janelle Monáe being the MVP of this movie, I think the MVP of this movie is for sure David Bradley.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And the most the emotionally resonant of this whole entire thing. puts Tom Hanks to shame, to be honest. And it just cements the fact, and also it never strayed from the fact that that Pinocchio's a little shithead. But also to incorporate some of Guillermo del Toro's horror influence. I love the creation scene when he created Pinocchio. My God, I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is on another level. And then when there was a scene where Geppetto was repairing his town's crucifix at the church, there's a profound moment where, and it kind of sells home the character and thesis of Pinocchio himself, is that, you know, why do they like him and not me?
Yeah.
Damn. And it's a beautiful movie, beautifully animated, which technically qualifies as live action, but that's another rabbit hole we'll get into probably later. Yeah. Guillermo del Toro, he's fantastic. I love the design of Pinocchio himself. You don't expect it. You expect the little Italian hat, you know, you expect, to put him in lederhosen, but he's not. He's this absolute behemoth, you know. It's almost so ugly it's cute kind of thing. And I think that just adds to the whole point of taking something as is rather than like modifying it and stuff. I just think that it's absolutely fantastic and brilliant on that part, just by the design. The music is great in itself. Oh my God. And there's like a running gag of Ewan McGregor trying to get a music number, but just like it never comes to fruition until you see. It's just also Alexander Desplat's like score of the movie. Oh my God. I was just in awe throughout the whole entire thing. Also, I love a good Cthulhu cameo. It's great. Fantastic. 10 out of 10. We'll do it again.
My number 4 film of the year is Avatar: The Way of Water. I thought this, in a number of aspects, kind of, yes, and pun intended, blew everything else out of the water as far as, spectacle was concerned, as far as visual is, but also as far as story is concerned. One of the things that's really gotten on my nerves in recent months is this idea that, yeah, sure, James Cameron, you can have the titles, like, yeah, sure, your movies you have like 3 of the top 4 highest grossing films of all time. Sure, you've won Best Director, but you know what, James Cameron? The one thing you don't have and will never have, and don't you forget it, is that as a great screenplay writer, you are not. Is one of the things that people keep insisting about him. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know.
Because his films...
I don't know. When Jake Sully said, all right, let's do this. One of the best cinematic moments ever. Best writing.
Just because the film happens to have, lines like, we're not in Kansas anymore, or why so blue? And it's like, I'm sorry. There needs to be this disassociation now. Like, if you are going to attack a film for just having lines like that, I think you're just largely missing the point, and you're allowing your own biases to get in the way of fairly judging the screenplay here. The characterization in this movie is unbelievably strong in comparison to that of its predecessor. The idea that you took a character that I really couldn't care about, which I think was the biggest issue in the first film, which is Jake Sully, whose narration kind of just like in some instances can be, seen as putting you to sleep. The idea of that person or that character coming back in this sequel, I don't think honestly, much has been made about how much of an improved performance Sam Worthington turns in this time in comparison to the first time around. Overall, that character and all of the characters in this film, particularly this family, you really do connect with, and you want to, and you root for, in terms, especially with all of the stuff that they have to overcome in this film. The overall planet, the oceans, the Tilkoon or Payakan, the main Tilkoon here. And even something as one of the things that was so unexpected was, for instance, Sigourney Weaver, 70-year-old Sigourney Weaver playing a teenager. And yeah, some people would say, yeah, I could totally tell that was a 70-year-old. I don't care. She played it convincingly. She was amazing as Kitty. And then also you have Stephen Lang coming back, topping the performance he had in the first movie, but then a much more layered and emotional story this time around that's very much, reminiscent of Vader and Luke Skywalker, with, Spider being kind of the pseudo son figure in this movie. All of this, I think, worked to a far greater degree than I think I could have imagined. It is one of the highest grossing films of all time for a reason. And I don't know, it really does rub me the wrong way that a lot of people just kind of wholesale dismissed this film when it came to, I don't know, having conversations about what the best of the year was. So that was my number 4. Number 4 for David, and this is not controversial at all, is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
It is. Too low.
Of course, I had mentioned that sarcastically. And Peter, wait until you find out what came above that movie. Anywho, Peter, what is your number 4 movie of the year?
My number 4 movie is RRR. The only blockbuster, well, I guess the biggest blockbuster I have up here. It is a maximalist film. Big heart, big action, big everything in this film. So over the top. The dance numbers, the action scenes, the emotions. It's another big epic historical fiction adventure that is just, it reminds you why you love going to the movies, because it just beats at you at your core with every emotion you would want to feel, and you feel all of it. I really love this one. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, but it's a hell of a motion picture. So yeah, RRR is my number 4.
My number 3 is The Banshees of Inisherin. For all of the reasons that all of you spoke to and then some, I think I couldn't agree more with you, Kyle, when you said what, from a cinematography standpoint, what an amazing film this is. But just for context, just recently, my most recent rewatch of this film, I actually had it on mute. Had the subtitles on, but because I was like working on something, so I had it on in the background, but I couldn't stop looking at it. It is so picturesque. Just every shot of the island is just beautiful. And as far as the humor is concerned, yes, it's very funny, but then also it's very serious too. And to all of the issues that Peter spoke to of, the capturing of loneliness and the resentment going on of everybody, being miserable on this stupid island. Mm-hmm. And, it also, I'm really curious to see, if, certain people took something else out of it, but really what's among the other things front and center in Banshees is the idea of, this friendship between, Calm and Podrick. Was it meant to last? Who was right and who was wrong in this circumstance? And this movie is not really interested in that at all, like who is right or who is wrong. And it really makes for an honest conversation about, the conditions it takes, but then also the reasons that people have for a falling out of a friendship, especially like what it seemed like to be a lifelong friendship. But then also with that being mirrored in the background of, the Irish Civil War happening, and, how that's really kind of tied back in at the very end of it, which, we leave the film, it really I think some would argue it's more clear, and then some would suggest perhaps it's left in a vague situation. But like, I don't know, Kyle, what did you think at the end of the film? Did you think that things were left in a place where the two would continue on in their own paths and have acknowledged that they're not going to interfere? Or would you think that it very much landed on the idea that both admitting no matter how their differences are, they're just going to continue being friends because that's the way things should be?
I think tied in with the metaphor of the Civil War happening in the backdrop, I think that it just mirrors what their temperament is, and the way that Colin Farrell said at the end, like something along the lines of that, that the firing will resume, in this war. And with all wars, like, war has never stopped, regardless of what it is. So I think that I think they're going to continue on with this never-ending war that they have between themselves. Because honestly, nothing will change.
Yes, it's one of these films that I can put on and just be like captured by a lot of the conversations that are had, and also for how, humorous they can be, for sure. So that is my number 3 movie, The Banshees of Inisherin. David's number 3 film is The Batman. So, Kyle, what is your number 3 movie?
When I was watching this movie, nothing grabs you like a good cold open. And honestly, this, to hint at where I'm going, this opening, I just want to describe to you that when I'm telling you that I love this movie, I'm not monkeying around. And let me tell you something. I love Jordan Peele's Nope. And Jordan Peele's Nope, I think like I said to another movie, I don't know which one I was referring to, but like when I say that I had a stupid grin on my face throughout watching this movie, it's fantastic. The Daniel Kaluuya, I think that's how you say his name, was fantastic. Keke Palmer, what the fuck? She was amazing in this as well. And I love, like, honestly, like, truth be told, I don't think audiences have seen another spectacle. See what I did there?
Yes, Kyle, we saw what you did.
Thank you very much. I deserve all the awards. Ship them to P.O. Box 120. No, I'm kidding. I don't think the audiences have ever graced a spectacle since 1975, when Mr. Spielberg himself was like, "Hey, aren't sharks kind of scary?" And that's what I felt when I was watching this movie, and it added on to that factor. It's just because of this movie, I was just like, yeah, I just love it. And also it's kind of a Western too, and I love myself a good Western, and it felt like a good old fashioned Western, kind of thing. The score, I forgot who did the score, but he did an amazing job at this movie. And also I love that, that this movie turned a phrase when it came to what you think is going to be like the stereotypical blockbuster that it's going to be, and it kind of turns it on its head, kind of, and I love it. Stephen Yeun is fantastic. This whole entire thing is fantastic. I honestly can't say much good things about it just because it's kind of perfect. It's kind of a perfect film that I love to watch, and it is just I've seen this movie about 5 times already, and just like Beetlejuice says, it keeps getting better every single time I see it, and it's just it's kind of a perfect film for me. I don't know, there's not much like it,
There's a lot to really go into. I mean, for one, the cinematography of this movie, Jesus,
the lighting
so
effects
good.
that they did,
the score in and of itself, definitely, harkens that of a Western in places. So yeah, that was Kyle's number 3 movie. Again, Kyle's number 3 film was Nope. Peter, what is your number 3 film?
You're not going to believe this.
It's Nope.
It's Nope.
Yep.
Why does that disappoint you so?
No, I'm just... apologies if it sounded that way. I just okay, get on with it.
Okay, Nope. Nope, I actually think is Jordan Peele's best film.
Mm-hmm.
I even think it's better than his first debut, Get Out. To me, it's really what cemented Jordan Peele as a major director for which I will be following for the rest of his career. Where it's just okay, he's got that special sauce within him that I just want a taste of.
Yep. Okay.
Don't look at me like that. It's very late. Don't look at me like that.
I mean, it just came off in a really
it definitely came
interesting
off
way.
Yes. The point being, I really loved this film. I think it's so expertly crafted. I think there's so many layers to the film that I think I don't want to sound I understood it. Because I don't. There's just so much to it, but I do feel a lot of it went over people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just so much. The characters are rich and interesting. It's beautifully shot. There's some breathtaking sequences this film, and when there's a turn and you find out what's really going on, I was like, oh, I love this. It kind of reminded me of The Moment, and you're gonna be really surprised with the movie I just bring up right now, The Last Jedi.
All right, I'm taking a shot.
Take a shot. No, but I remember when we were watching it, and once we hit the throne room scene, I think I leaned to Alexis, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I love this movie." And at the point where it's revealed what's actually going on with the UFO, I had a similar feeling of oh, I love this, right? And it really delivered with the rest. There's day for night shots in this film, and it looks good. That's insane to me. No, I really, really love this film, and I cannot wait for Jordan Peele's next film. It's so well crafted.
What's he working on next?
You know what? I think I remember hearing it, but I can't remember. I cannot remember for the life of me. Okay. But I do remember. I think they already announced. He had already announced it. Yeah.
I'll Google it because I remember being very, very much intrigued about it. But anyway, continue.
No, that was it. That was just keeping it short and sweet.
That was your number 3?
Yes, my number 3.
Okay. Well, we're now in the top 2. That is quite interesting. because I can speak for myself. The top 2 has been kind of a racking question for weeks and months now.
Not for me.
Well, I mean, was I speaking for you? I don't think I was. I wasn't. And I made that very clear when I said I was speaking for myself, that for me, these movies I especially adore. Like my top 5 are like films I'm always going to love. And this top 2, I'm going to be honest, just like since, even in these last few days, I was like, okay, am I sure about this? So that's just my headspace for like thinking about like which movie is going to fall where, right? So, for number 2, who would like to go first?
You.
I'm actually going to defer to somebody else.
No.
I do not defer.
Well, I defer. I pass on that.
And I pass it right back.
So while you two decide which of you it's going to be, I will start off with David. And his number 2 movie of the year is The Fabelmans.
David, Alexis, you brainwashed this poor boy.
David, you were spending way too much time with this degenerate. Do not let him influence you in that way. Don't let him do it.
Well, all I can say is I feel that, David's picks certainly speak for themselves. And I have to commend them. I think it is quite the list, I'm sure.
David,
and
blink twice if you need help.
I have to say, I'm especially fond of the ranking of this. The second favorite film of the year, which I believe came above some movies that received quite a lot of love from this group.
David, I cannot tell you how disappointed I am in you.
I'll tell you this. I don't know whose idea it was years ago. I don't know whose idea it was years ago to invite, the Morenos onto this podcast, but whoever it was, I think it was Kyle. Thank you so much.
I regret
because
it.
Inadvertently through the years, they've been able to, let's just say, have some picks that would never even occur to you. Like, for example, last year we had, thanks to one of the Morenos, the Eternals movie ended up being on the top 2 of her list.
Insane. Insane. Oh my god. I don't want to get mad about last year's list too, but whatever.
And I have to say, that would not have been possible if it wasn't for Kyle.
You see, you're shifting the blame, but you're the ultimate puppet master, Palpatine.
Yeah.
I'm not shifting any blame. I'm being sincere when I say thank you so much. Deflecting isn't so much what I'm doing here. I'm giving credit where credit is due. And I'm sorry, but Peter, if you want to be disgusted, by the way, this same person also put your favorite movie on top.
Yeah, but that's
year.
a given.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
At no point was it a given that you would have that film at the very top of a list.
What happened. Okay.
The same can be said with Eternals.
Yeah.
What happened.
Like 9/11.
I'm going to Pontius Pilate this bitch, and I wash my hands of this weirdness.
Oh, I thought
sure.
You were going to crucify someone.
Hey, it was the crowd that crucified the Christ. It wasn't Pontius Pilate. He washed his hands of this.
He took the metaphor.
Well, as a matter of fact, David did give a review of the movie, and if you heard that review, it should come as to no surprise that he really especially related to this film. So there it is. His number 2 movie, The Fabelmans. And, since Nope had a great reaction of two people putting that at number 3, I can't think of a greater time to segue into Fabelmans, having not one, but 2 people put it at number 2 on their lists. So thank you very much. My number 2 movie would happen to be the one by Steven Spielberg. This is The Fabelmans. Being sincere now, this movie really has been with me for several months now, and I have watched this movie. I want to say I've given up on counting the number of times that I've actually seen it. Full disclosure, and look, I understand some of you might be a bit surprised here. And I am too, in a way, because listen, number 2 and number 1 are very close to me. And given how passionate I've been about this movie, and given how often I've seen it and how often I think about it, it happens to be a coming of age film. And it happens to be about a person who, for quite a long time now, I have really connected with, in particular through who he reveals himself to be throughout all of his movies. And it continues to be with this latest one. I found it endlessly charming. And as far as the screenplay is concerned, just so entertaining, hilarious in moments. I think this can really, I'm trying to think of any other ones, but I think it's probably the funniest movie in Spielberg's catalog for sure. And I've gone on a tangent, I will say, for weeks on end at this point. The point there being is I do feel that there is something about his style of movie making that just doesn't jibe well with people sometimes. And it has caused a lackluster, I don't know, response from some people. And to be clear, I think Peter's reasons for not caring about this movie are not the same as most people. So I just want to be clear and like separate those two, even though Peter will not care that I acknowledge that. But so yeah, I'm going to say this film is a reminder as to why I love all things Steven Spielberg, and a reminder as to why I love all things film. And I don't know what more needs to be said. And since we're on this train, I'm just going to go ahead and say my number 1 was Everything Everywhere All at Once. So, because, I mean, there really wasn't, come on, there really wasn't any secrecy. It's not really any surprise that these were the films that ended up being at the top of it. This film is a generational moment. It is culturally significant. And seriously, deep down, this film pretty much encapsulates what I would want really humanity to be about. There could be no greater act of love and forgiveness than what is shown in this film. And I was blown away, absolutely blown away in ways most movies haven't been able to really come close to. Peter and I were there that week when it opened, and we walked out and we were of the same mind. We just watched one of the best things ever made. And I could not be happier that this film has gone on to be as resonant the world over. And it's going to be hard, I'm going to say it, for like all of the years that are coming up ahead that are going to, produce films that come close to this. But that is the end of my top 10 list. So without further ado, let's go ahead. And since I went ahead and revealed what the number 2 film was for David, it actually turns out that his number one favorite movie was one that was just mentioned recently. I believe, Peter, you put it as your number 4. So David's number 1 film is RRR. So those are 2 lists out of the way with. Kyle, I believe it is your turn.
I guess you're done.
Go ahead and speak to what your number 2 favorite movie of 2022 was.
I'm addressing the 2 big elephants in the room. You're pulling
what elephants?
You're pulling a me from 2017 when I could see right, and you could see right through it too, when I placed the Logan as my number 1 and Star Wars The Last Jedi as my number 2. You're so, oh my god,
Well, to be fair to him, it was, as you agreed to as well, it was a rule this year that we could not put that film, The Fabelmans, as number 1.
Kyle, can you please elaborate on what you were saying? I want to hear more.
Because there's quite the notion that my number 1 film, like the 2 years before it, were going to be a Star Wars film, and I wanted to shake that taboo. And by you putting, hang what Peter's rules are, because honestly, fuck him. I don't give a shit.
Whoa.
Here's the.
I'm being attacked a lot tonight. I don't appreciate it.
Shut up. Anyway, so
and it continues. You're saying I should, that this doesn't make any sense, that you feel like Fabelmans should have been number 1?
Clearly you loved Fabelmans more. You bitched about it to us multiple times.
And I continue to do that.
You and Peter are at each other like freaking Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson and Banshees of Inisherin. I'm surprised that you don't have a box full of Peter's fingers.
Oh,
I like how I'm Donald Gleeson.
Brendan Gleeson.
Donald.
Kyle, unless I'm mistaken, are you saying I should switch the films?
I mean, unless you live under the thumb of Peter Martinez, which I certainly do not, I think you should have that switched.
I want to be clear here. Peter has been on this asinine thing for months now because ever since the trailer came out for the film, like, he was so grossed out by it because obviously that would be a movie that I would really, really love. And so he came up with this, like, rule that I can't have it. And, I mean, do you honestly think for a second that played a role into my reasoning of it? I was literally, like, racking my brain these last few days, like, which one goes on top? And
So you're saying that Spielberg is a bottom?
I mean, we're not going to bottom shame on this podcast, Kyle. Like, what the fuck is that kind of mentality right there?
I will.
Oh, shit. I mean, well, you do a lot of shaming, as a matter of fact, Peter, so I'm sure you're very comfortable doing that.
Oh my
Bottoms
God.
enjoy shaming.
That's the title of this podcast.
Oh God, no.
I love it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I thought I was sure, but after hearing what you said, now I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
So easily manipulated.
Next year, or in 2 years from now, when we do the next top 10 list,
My plan is nearly complete.
Well, I'll put it to you this way.
expect me to talk?
I still don't buy the fact that Peter liked Encanto more than Dune. Do you buy that? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Peter, sometimes
I gave my reasonings.
Peter's list, often than not, goes by the Rian Johnson format of not going the way we think. you know, most often than not. Even though this year it's pretty clear, you know, what's on top for Peter. But
okay, this is what I'm gonna do.
Always the top.
I am going to reconsider the placement of that top two.
Pathetic.
While you talk about what your number 2 film of the year was.
okay, so my number 2. Let me discuss to you guys my number 2. This movie, you just gotta embrace getting sucked into a bagel. Okay, let's talk about, you know, this conversation and everything that's in it, everywhere and all at once. The Daniels, I
think you need to reconsider.
I don't think so. I'm pretty happy with my number 1. But anyway, and also my number 1 should be very predictable at this point.
Do not listen to a word he says.
But anyway, so
who are you talking to? Who are you talking to?
What are you talking about?
Anyway, so Everything Everywhere All at Once. All I can say about it's just, damn, Daniel, throw that back. I just
Do you want to listen to that, Alexis?
I think that this is fantastic. I love that this movie, like the theme of this movie is kind of parents apologizing to their kids. It's fantastic.
But when it was Encanto, that was another story.
You see, that apology was bullshit. Okay, I'm not gonna fall into it.
Go ahead. Why not?
Anyway, no, because that's his trap. I'm not gonna fall into it.
He canceled an entire podcast just to not go into it.
Anyway, I think that this movie is. I literally came out of the fucking screening when we first saw this movie, and I said, "Take that, Encanto."
That's right. You did say that.
Yes. I saw this movie 3 times in theaters, and it got better every time I saw it. I saw it twice in home video, and honestly, it's fantastic. I just love everything that this movie did. I love Michelle Yeoh and Stephanie Sue. I think their dynamic as mother and daughter, I think is, and Sophia and I were watching this movie, and comparing and contrasting, about like Asian representation about these two movies that are thematically kind of similar. And I was talking about, we were talking about Turning Panda versus this movie, Turning Red, and this movie.
Turning Panda.
That's the tagline on the poster. No, but we were talking about Turning Red and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Sophia said, "Please, this is the Asian representation Disney is going to give us." Versus the way that she reacted when we talked about Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that was, okay, they did not need to personally attack me this way. Compare and contrast. Those are fantastic. And I feel the same way. I just, a lot of it was a little close to home. But also, and I see a little bit of joy and a little bit of my dad and, in Evelyn's character as well. I mean, it's just those two things, and I just see that, and it made me feel kind of seen in that department. And yeah,
representation matters.
And everything that this movie was, doing, especially the multiverse, is just one of those things that I'm absolutely like thrilled about. Like, this is how you do multiverse, Marvel. This is how you do that kind of concept, and it even goes beyond the bullshit that Adult Swim did with Rick and Morty. Like a lot of this shit was absolutely fantastic. And Ki Hai Kwan, speaking of going back, another comeback story of the year. He was absolutely phenomenal in this movie, and I loved it. And the line that he says, in another life, I would have loved to do taxes and laundry with you. And honestly, like, cry every time I hear that line. Absolutely beautiful. I was so happy. I was not disappointed when this movie won Best Picture. It was great. It's a great movie. I can't.
But not the number one movie.
But not the number one. But my number one should be very predictable, and I don't give a shit.
I'm very happy to hear you say that, because you shouldn't be giving a shit whether or not your choice was, expected. Because, well, for one, Peter has been telegraphing what his top spot, has been like for the whole year. And, that really shouldn't matter, ultimately, right?
Peter, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Okay.
You piece of shit.
Time out.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're lying, right?
Why would I lie?
No. No shit.
No.
You're doing it again? No, I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
You're pulling this shit a second year in a row. What? No, I don't believe it. You don't believe it. What's your real number 2?
My real number 2 is Tar.
Yeah, exactly. You piece of shit.
Tar is the moment. She's the it girl.
Oh my god.
She girl bossed, gaslighted, and got her way canceled. And I love her all the more for it. Tar is a fantastic film. It is a combination of like a horror film and the blackest comedy you've ever seen. Centered with a unbelievable performance by some white lady. It's
not just some white lady, it's the white lady.
The white lady, I'm sorry. The white lady. And it's a movie that doesn't hold your hand. You have to really stick with it and really fall into the world and to the character of Tar. But if you do, like I said, I think you're greatly rewarded. And it's a film you can sit with and think with, and ponder, all while just reeling from the powerhouse performance with the titular character. I don't think I'd laughed as hard as I did any other film than I did with Tar, which is kind of a funny thing to say. But there are just certain moments in that film where I just can't help but lose it with how funny it is in my mind. But again, it's also just like a horror film in a lot of ways, and like black, as far as
Apartment for sale.
It's a one of a kind, I think. And yeah, I think it tackles the subject material with a great sort of arms. It's weird because you're so in the point of view of Tar, but I feel the film never necessarily picks a side. It merely shows you everything that's transpired, and you're not necessarily meant to. The film never stops to tell you this is a bad person or this is a good person who is unfairly being maligned. It merely shows you this situation, and you sort of kind of come to your feelings on what's happening on your own. And it does it in a really, really, I think, intelligent and well weaved together way. I wasn't expecting to enjoy Tar as much as I did. When I heard about it, it's like, it's about a conductor. Like, I give a fuck, you know? It's very similar to, I forgot the name of it, but the Anthony Hopkins film.
Oh, The Father.
The Father.
The Father, yeah. Where I was like, oh, he's old and has Alzheimer's, okay. And then you watch it, and I was like, oh, wow, like, I'm blown away by this film and the amazing performance at the center of it. And this is, I think, similar for me too in that way. So yeah, Tar. Lydia.
I think Tar is great. And you are right. It is pretty funny. It's really funny in certain moments.
Funny.
There were 2 movies that were on my watch list, but I never got around to watching. Tar is one of them.
It had the best original song, and it wasn't nominated for some reason.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle,
Oh, I'm going first?
Yes.
Who talks first? You talk first. I talk first.
well, I already mentioned David's number 1 was RRR.
Do we want to go with
Just put
Me?
on your cowl.
I'll do you one better.
Oh no.
Underneath the bridge, the top has sprung a leak, and
that was our top 10 show, everybody.
no, I can't even emphasize how long I've been wanting this kind of Batman film, and Matt Reeves delivered and then some. One of my favorite Batman universes to live in is the Arkham games. One of them. The next is the animated series. I feel like they took the elements of both and gave it steroids. And it just amplified everything that I love about Batman. It honestly, it's probably my favorite Batman movie. Like, it's a toss-up because I love Mask of the Phantasm. It's just one of those things that I just am deeply connected with. I've loved Batman since I was probably like 6 years old or something like that, or 5. You know, I remember watching at like, but when I was 5, I remember watching Adam West's Batman. I remember, you know, watching freaking what's it called? Keaton and all that stuff, not knowing the context of what it was. I remember watching Batman 1989 and being completely like, oh, this is different from the Adam West version, but okay. And then all of a sudden Nolan came out with this spin, and I was like, you know what? It just can't get any better. But then Matt Reeves wiped his ass with what Nolan did. And did
It's a bit harsh, but okay.
and did everything that it just made the world a lot more believable. It made it feel like its own unique Gotham instead of just downtown Chicago. And I love the fact that the city has a lot of character. Andy Serkis as Alfred Pennyworth is fantastic. I was getting chills talking because Sophia and I, we really love the movie. I saw this movie 4 times in theaters. But anyway, so I was talking with Sophia, and we were both salivating, and chills ran down our spine of the aspect of what's coming next. And I was just like, I need, honestly, this movie is like 10 hours long, but honestly, I could have done with another 10. It's just that good. I love this world. Some iconic Batman scenes, not just scenes, but like freaking comic book films in general. That scene of the flames, and it's from Penguin's perspective, and he's upside down, and you see Battinson, which I think is incredible in the movie, walking towards his way. Fucking badass, fantastic. I love it all. Also, the score that Michael Giacchino did, it's just so outstanding, so remarkably gothic. I love it. Paul Dano in this movie, oh my god. And the way he makes Ave Maria sound so creepy is just one of those things. But yeah, I love the Batman. It's so incredible. I wish that more comic book movies ran with this concept.
It's an amazing movie, and one of the ones that I can't believe just got kind of a cold shoulder in response to other blockbusters because it was earlier in the calendar than in the year than some of these other ones.
As somebody says, I reject that premise.
Well, yeah, I mean, Black Panther got 5 nominations. Anyway, Peter is going to get to his number 1, but it appears that for the first time ever, we're going to have somebody change their mind.
Here we go.
Yeah, okay.
And here
fine.
We go.
Okay, Kyle, you're right. I mean, I guess if we're thinking about the movie that has been in my head for the most time, right? If we're talking about the movie whose score and soundtrack I've heard the most, if we're talking about the movie that I've seen the most in theaters, which is a total of 5 times, which is crazy. And considering everything about it, yes, you're right. My number 1 favorite movie of the year 2022 is The Fabelmans.
But we got there.
Which means that Everything Everywhere All at Once is number 2 on my list. I don't know why it was so hard to just say that, but honestly, look, it was a really difficult decision for me because, even though, yes, you could criticize me for maybe taking this a bit more serious than honestly maybe I should. The question in my mind was, well, I do keep a list all year round on my Letterboxd account. All the movies I've seen, even the ones I hated, and I rank them as far as okay, how did this movie stack up to the other ones? And all year long, I had Everything Everywhere All at Once. And look, I don't want it to be misconstrued in any way. I love the movie, clearly, for what it is, and it meant so much to me. That's why initially I did go on here and say it was my favorite, because it had been the longest on that top spot and it hadn't moved. But I'm not going to lie, it also goes into the thinking of, well, it very clearly, in my estimation, was the most impressive and I think the best movie all year round. So it is a hard thing to kind of like wrap your head around, because oftentimes you are going to be in that kind of position where, yeah, I can say objectively speaking, this is much better, but do I prefer it? And, you know, I guess a part of me did want to really, you know, go all the way with it. And I very nearly did, because even just this most recent week, I put both movies on, both Everything Everywhere All at Once and The Fabelmans, because, well, maybe if I'd see them back to back, I might have some kind of inkling as to which one I would prefer. But, you know, Kyle, you are correct. I mean, for however much I love Everything Everywhere All at Once, it obviously doesn't need me going to its defense. Everyone seems to love it, and I'm happy for it, and it definitely got all the accolades. And I also want to stress, I'm very happy for it again in that regard. But very clearly, and quite often, very much have rushed to the defense of Spielberg's latest outing for, you know, a variety of number of reasons. But I mean, oftentimes you are going to know. You are going to know the movie that you know, you've been thinking about the most, the one that you've been obsessed with, the one that's just, you know, for all of the stuff that you end up watching, you know, in the weeks or months thereafter, it's still sticking to you. You're still finding yourself, maybe not every day, but every week it comes to mind. And then all of a sudden you're reminded of how much you really do enjoy that movie. And, you know, it's very clear to me when we do these shows, which one is that one? But, you know, for this one, I don't know, I didn't want to be like overly biased with it, but I guess, you know, despite my best efforts, I haven't been able to shake this thing loose, you know? It didn't necessarily make the best impression compared to other movies the first time I saw it, and I know I kind of alluded to that when we did our review of it a few months ago. But sure enough, as you know, some here may have all too easily have predicted well before we had the chance to see this movie, it did keep coming up and up again, and I kept going back to watch it again and again and again. And, well, what is it about this movie that has just captured my imagination? It has honestly a lot to do with the kind of movie that it is, you know, and it also has a lot to do with like who is the one that's making it. For one, from a direction standpoint, you have one of the best of all time that's personally, you know, holding the camera here. And just as far as, you know, the directing and the editing is concerned, the pacing of this movie is awesome. It just goes and goes and goes. And it honestly does remind me of one of my other favorite films, but this one in a far more technically impressive manner. I love Richard Linklater, and I love his movie Boyhood. And I don't want to reiterate all the reasons why I loved that film. You know, I think, for me anyway, part of the charm of that movie was less because it came off like a, you know, really impressive, well put together, you know, film, and more because it came across like a collection of home movies that had been strung along together, and, through Mason's, that's the main character's experiences, very much being ingrained in the very years that I, of course, came of age, were very much, resonant for me. A lot of the things that he thought and a lot of the things that he went through, I did as well, and I was there for all of that. So I couldn't help but walk away. And I know I'm never going to forget the experience I had with that film. Now with this one, it is very much cut from the same cloth, but not very much the same movie, because this one is, I would say, in the same spirit of Boyhood, but the difference would be is you have a technical master here that more than anything really understands how to weave together, if nothing else, an entertaining experience, and a charming one at that. And of course, being paired up with Tony Kushner, who, every one of their collaborations, in my view, has, I think, gone up there with among the best things that Spielberg has ever produced. And these works include Munich, Lincoln, and West Side Story, and now Fabelmans. And even though I'm not, of course I'm not, and it seems ridiculous that I have to, go to this length to clarify it, but I mean, it's interesting to me that in some ways I still resonated with a film, again, of the same, cut from the same cloth as Boyhood, this kid, Sammy Fabelman, coming of age, but this is the 50s and 60s, and, I'm very far removed from that. Very much grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s. That's my time. But I still connected very much so with the essence of who Sammy Fabelman was. Having this kind of, not necessarily, a gift, but, he has this passion, and he has this talent, and he wants to pursue it, very much so. And throughout the movie, he's really caught in between wanting to fully explore that, but then also, realizing that in some instances he needed to reel himself back because not wanting to come in the way of his family, or, for the sake of the family, his family that he so very much loves. And in the way that I connect to that, not necessarily with filmmaking, but the idea that I care very much so about my family, and in the same way that Sammy has a rather protective relationship, a protective and close friendship relationship with his mother, the same that I can speak to. So very much that, as the bare to bones structure of the movie, I personally responded to, and I can definitely, feel the emotion within him in every frame, in every cut of this movie. The idea that this really, really only exists because he lost his parents. And among the many things this movie has made me feel is, how he says it. So much of his life is in memory. And even far younger, but I'm still catching myself thinking of previous days gone by. But it has made me more aware, and it's made me want to push myself even harder than I previously did before to appreciate all of the moments that I currently have with them, because I'm sure, like he at one point imagined himself, I can't let myself think of a day that they wouldn't be here for me. And he's now going through that. You know, it doesn't hurt at all that you have a truly great find in Gabriel LaBelle, right? As someone who is going to inhabit your whole essence. I think he turned in one of my favorite performances, and I think for why it is that this so many of the images of this film have stuck in my mind is because of the overwhelming amount of expression that he was able to capture in just his face. Thought he was perfect. And really, at the end of the day, this is going to be a film that I'm going to keep coming back to again and again. I'm even thinking of it. I was watching it before. I'll be thinking of it long after. And that really is perhaps the reason for why I do happen to love this more. But again, talking about this movie kind of gets really into the personal of it all, and so maybe that's why at times it, you know, and it's I'm no stranger to coming to the defense of many of the things that I love, and nor am I a stranger to many of the things that I love, you know, having to be besieged by a mountain of bad takes and bad faith arguments. But, you know, if I get a little defensive, it's because somewhere in this movie, I think really is a big part of who I am as a person. So, yeah, but at the same time, the same can be said for Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that to me is another side of myself, which is, you know, I feel to strive for a life of happiness, you have to come away with the understanding that, you know, compassion and having love for all people in all circumstances is, you know, the most healthy way to approach life. And talking is healing. And if we can get to that, I feel like what we saw in that film is really going to awaken a lot of people. And it's just honestly one of the best executed examples of it, if not the very best I've ever seen. And it's going to be a film that is going to live with all of us for the remainder of our lives. It is a pivotal moment, I feel. And I think also that film in and of itself, as I've been speaking to these last few seconds, is the embodiment of why pictures are so culturally resonant in society, and I think makes one of the best cases ever made for why films overall are reflections of who we are, and at the same time can remind us of who we're supposed to be.
And here we are. But I've already kind of on that spiel, so... But this is the first time anybody's changed their mind.
Spiel or spiel?
And with that, I don't know what else you can say. Peter.
This is for all the haters and the losers that are currently talking to. This is a big fuck you to all of you. I don't need you to come out and with your bullshit lists and your bullshit lies, because guess what? It won more Academy Awards than any of you will be able to ever fucking think of for the rest of your life. It was made the best film of the year. You yourself called it one of the best films ever made. You did not say that about Fabelmans, so let's get that straight. It won every award in almost every category and is, by every metric, the best film of the year, maybe of the decade, maybe of a generation. And fuck the losers that would tell you otherwise.
Well, Peter,
I don't know how sincere that was because, again, these metrics could kind of go one way or the other. I mean, Babylon, for instance, was one of the most reviled films of the last year. Next to nobody liked that movie. And guess who happens to have that in the top 10?
A correct individual, yes.
Oh, well, I don't see how you're correct in that instance, but then all of a sudden you count all of the accolades there ever have been in the corner of what happens to be your favorite film of the year.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
everyone's favorite film. It won Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress.
You see, all of a sudden the Academy is valid in this point.
All I know
all of a sudden.
You look at money, you look at awards, you look at engagement, you look at every metric known to man. It is the movie of the year.
Yes, but as you say, none of that means anything in comparison to how you feel about a movie, right?
No.
And I think if we're trying to be honest here, okay, we heard you, but I think if we're trying to be honest with ourselves here, it's like
with yourself.
No, and I am being honest here. It's like I said that these top 2 movies were really hard to pick in between.
So is The Fabelmans you consider one of the best films ever made?
I don't know if I can honestly answer that question. Seriously. But I don't see how that matters. Like Parasite, I can say was the best movie of 2019.
Matter, though, if you're directly ranking
No, it doesn't matter when it comes to your personal list. I can tell you that
it does,
Parasite was the best movie of that year. Did I put it number 1? Hell no.
And you were wrong then. Thank you.
You know what?
Okay, you're right. You're right to bring that one up because holy shit. That was terrible as well. Yes.
I put Eternals as number 3 on my list last year.
How is this helping your point? Oh
my point is we all like the films that we like and we shouldn't have to be put in a position of like apologizing for it.
But why not?
That's my thing. Go ahead, Peter. Continue to talk shit.
That was it.
No.
You were waiting for that one.
This is not how it's supposed to go.
Shout out to the haters and the losers.
What a crock of shit.
I mean, it sounds to me that somebody's a bit peeved that no one else put this movie.
I have all the facts on my side.
Fake news.
I don't know.
Fake news.
The facts that you choose can come as well as they can easily go, but none of that really answered my question.
All the Oscars
I think part of you
on this side.
I think you could check. I think you could check all my facts. Everybody knows I have the best facts.
It is like some have stated previously within this very podcast. One of the best films ever made. I felt that walking out.
Yeah, me too.
Sure. Okay. It is a journey that I think you only go on maybe a handful of times when watching a film. Because every year I go to movie theaters and I see good films. Some movies are a little better than others. Some are a little worse. Some years, some movies. But very rarely do I go into a movie and I feel profoundly changed by the end of it. And I feel like, wow, that was not just a journey as far as like in a film, but that has had an effect on me as a person, as a human being. And I think, honestly, that's why the film itself has not only connected with me, but connected with so many others. I think so many other people have felt a profound connection. They have felt moved in ways that no other film has been able to affect them in a while. Again, it's not that it's never happened, before, but it's one of those rare instances where it's like, this is a journey that is both fresh and new, but connects with me in a way that feels like it knows me in a way. And even Guile touched on that, though through more of a representation angle. So, speaking of a movie that has everything, it does have everything. It everything everywhere all at once. It has it. Shut up.
So fucking
Should you
clever.
shut your damn mouth? The point being, when it comes to this film, like I said, there's a reason why so many people feel profoundly affected by it. It is able to juggle just about every emotion, every gag or joke, every action sequence with every amazing editing trick they could think of into a emotional journey of choosing happiness.
Yes.
It's one for the ages, I think.
And then we can all agree on that level.
Well,
all right. So as we wrap up, here's a recap of our lists. Kyle's number list. At number 10 was Prey. At number 9, The Whale. Number 8, Top Gun Maverick. Number 7, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 6, Elvis. Number 5, Glass Onion. Number 4, Del Toro's Pinocchio. Number 3, Nope. Number 2, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And number 1, The Batman. David's list, Puss in Boots in number 10, Banshees at number 9, The Northman at number 8, Top Gun at number 7, Dragon Ball at number 6, The Whale at number 5, Everything Everywhere All at Once at number 4, The Batman at number 3, The Fabelmans at number 2, and RRR at number 1. On my list, number 10 was Top Gun, number 9 was Glass Onion, number 8 was Nope, 7, The Batman, 6, Turning Red, 5, Del Toro's Pinocchio, 4, Avatar: The Way of Water, 3, Banshees of Inisherin, 2, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and 1, The Fabelmans. And then Peter's list, which I'm sure he will appreciate, I saved this for last, coincidentally. At number 10, Puss in Boots. Number 9, Glass Onion. Number 8, Babylon. Number 7, Avatar. Number 6, Banshees. Number 5, The Batman. 4, RRR. 3, Nope. Number 2, Tar. And number 1, as he would have it no other way, Everything, Everywhere, All
and everyone
at
else.
Once.
That is smart.
So anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening to yet another top 10 list. And hopefully the next one will be 10 million years away from now. Anyway, continue to stay here and to catch up on the latest in all things movies. Of course, coming up in the next few weeks, we've got Guardians, Spider-Verse, Indiana Jones, Barbie, and so much more here. Continue to subscribe every single Sunday. New podcasts under our spotlight. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Peter. Thank you all for listening, if you even made it this far into the podcast, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.